People who get locked into a vision. All right, that's it, man. That's their drive. That's their passion. Critics don't matter. This don't matter. They're going to do whatever it fucking takes to be the best at what they do.
This is Dave Tate again with another edition of Table Talk. Today I have JM Blakley with me. I really don't want to get into all his accolades, but we're going to touch on a few things right from the beginning, just so we can kind of get them out of the way and get them off of the table, so we can get into some things that are more current that he's been working on and things that I think he brings to the table as far as intelligence that you guys are going to be more interested in than some of the things in the past that you've read about. Because what people have missed is they know all about advice that you gave me on how to bulk up for a short period of time. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yet they never were around to read your weight loss book, or the weight loss manual, which has been copied almost verbatim several times over the past 20 some years, which was kind of a risky book at the time to be able to put out if you think about the stuff that was in there. And then the JM press. So we're going to get those two things off of the table kind of immediately, because that's where most of the questions came from, and then we'll go from there. The first one is, and I'm sure you remember, for those that don't know, JM used to train at Westside, but he didn't train at Westside. I think there's a very important distinction to make there. He trained at World Gym North, I believe, right? Most of the time, and then he would come down and train with George and Kenny infrequently, sometimes frequently, but mostly infrequently. I think mainly, and I'll let him explain it a little bit more, is a learning experience to pick each other's brain, is a competitive experience to be around people that are also pushing for the same goals that you were pushing for. And what I liked about when JM would come down is we shared the same educational path, sort of, to that point, to where my degree was in exercise science, and I don't believe anybody else in Westside had a degree in exercise science, and you were working on your master's or PhD at the time. So it's always funny, because if we had something that we wanted to talk about, we always snuck outside, because we didn't want Louis to hear it, because it would probably be something that he didn't want to hear, or something that would be more progressive, or progressive overload oriented, or block training oriented. Or so we had a lot of interesting conversations about training, which I never really put out there because it wasn't as interesting as the time that I was stuck. And this was an interesting one, because I think he overheard me bitching in the gym because I could not get my weight to break 280 or whatever it was at the time, and I was a 308, and was still and this is a misconception that a lot of people have when they read about me or they hear my stuff. I used to bodybuild. I used to always eat fairly clean, and I was eating probably too clean at the time, and I couldn't break the 280, and there's only so much chicken breast and rice that you're able to pound down to be able to make any progress. So JM overheard me, bitching to whoever I was bitching to about this, and said, "Hey, come out to the parking lot. I got a secret to tell you." And pulls me out to the parking lot, proceeds to tell me the bulking diet, which was the 3 breakfast sandwiches from McDonald's with 2 packages of mayonnaise per sandwich, 2 hash browns per sandwich, 3 in the morning. Lunch was to be Chinese food with MSG, not without MSG. Dinner was to be, you had more choices, but pizza with olive oil, fully loaded. And the best part about the pizza one, because there was other stuff like spaghetti that you could overload and cereal that you could it was all about calories per bite. But the pizza one was a better example, because you said you put it on the table, the coffee table, and you look at it before you eat it. So there was a mental aspect to this thing. And you picture every piece of that pizza as being one step closer to your goals, because you're going to get to a point after that 20 minutes when your body becomes satiated. You're not going to want to eat that. So you're going to have to stare at those two pieces and realize you don't have what it takes, to be able to finish it. So when I tell the story, people crack up and laugh, but it actually is a very good story. Now, in between all this was the Hershey bars, which were to be carried and eaten every hour to keep the blood sugar constantly high, but constant. So there was less fluctuation in the blood sugar. And the best part about the Hershey bars were you didn't have to be hungry. You could just throw it in your mouth and it would melt down your throat. Now, what people don't understand is this was not a 6-month diet. This was like for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month at the very most, to kind of get you to go from a 280 to a 300, just a big smack in the face to kickstart and get it going.
Yeah, it was a breakthrough.
Yeah, it was a breakthrough.
And you got to do it until you get what
Yes.
you want to break through to.
Yes.
So it might be 6 months if you screw
True.
around and don't get your job done.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was just a breakthrough.
So it was something that worked and has become known as the JM diet, which is really a disservice to the nutritional knowledge that you have because you've gone up and down weight classes and so forth. So let's just explain why, the breakthrough with those foods. I mean, they're calorie dense foods, but our listeners aren't going to know.
That's the answer, Dave. I mean, you know the answer. The answer is you have to be able to produce weight on your body out of matter that you eat. You cannot go to the gym and breathe in muscle mass. Muscle mass is built out of matter. Matter comes into our bodies with food and drink. So there is the end-all be-all. You have to put matter in if you want it to stick. And a calorie is a calorie. Calories have different sources, but they burn the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, 1 calorie is a specific amount of heat that you need to raise I think it's a cc of water 1 degree centigrade. So I don't remember the exact, but it's a heat amount. When you eat food, you have a certain amount of energy that's locked in the food that you release. You want that energy to go into something that's going to be built in your body. So your body's built out of food, not hopes and dreams and training hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's built out of food. Now, the training is the stimulus for the growth, but the growth has to be made from matter, building blocks, bricks. So I guess the training is if you want to build a house and you get a bunch of workers to show up at your site and you decide that what you need is more workers because the house isn't getting built. And so you get more workers and you do more and more and more training. And then you finally realize, I didn't bring enough bricks. I need more bricks, not more workers. I need more food, not more not more people, not more training, more matter that the people that are there can build into my house. So the food is the end-all be-all of gaining weight. And if you gain weight alone, fat, muscle, you will get stronger. Even fat weight makes people stronger. That's not what we want. It's not what our goal is. But if you could trade a pound of muscle, how many pounds of fat would you be willing to put on? So to lose body fat, to lose body weight, to lose fat, you just have to not eat and go run around a little bit. That's pretty easy. To gain a pound of muscle, that's pretty hard. So the two things, gaining a pound of muscle or losing some fat, I think the easier of the two by far is to lose the fat. So I always said I was willing to put on, out of every 3 pounds, 1 pound muscle. So a 2-to-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put on 2 pounds of fat for that 1 pound of muscle, which is hard to get, because I can burn the 2 pounds of fat off easily. And so calories is the end-all be-all of gaining weight.
So the choice of the food was mostly just convenience.
It's mostly convenience and processability. So there's a term that Kessler from the FDA used when he was being very critical of the fast food industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called palatability. So how it goes down your throat, how much it fits your palate. And he was talking about how they do science on this, and they look at how many bites, how many chews per bite. How many times do I got to chew this steak before I can suck it down? And they know the answer to that, and they do things to the food on purpose. I don't know how, if you've been to McDonald's lately, but I happen to know that you can eat a McDonald's hamburger without chewing it.
Mm-hmm.
You can just press it against the roof of your mouth and it will fall apart. It is very palatable. It goes down easy. Really easy, really quick. Now that's good for gaining weight. It may not be good for most Americans who aren't balancing that intake of food with a hard, heavy exercise of any kind, right?
Yeah.
So back to the 2-for-1 deal, right? You have to ask yourself, how much do I believe in my ability to diet? So after I put on 30 pounds and I've got my 10 pounds of muscle, can I get rid of those 20 pounds of extra fat, or am I stuck with those?
Yeah.
So if you have faith in yourself, you can put on 2-to-1, and you can do much better than that. That's the top limit I was willing to do. I would have loved to have 1-to-1. That's even better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or better than that, and it can be done. The problem is you don't want to walk the fine line. When you go into a workout, you stimulate the growth. You want to recover from that workout, repair any damage, and grow. That's 3 things you got to do. 3 things. So let's say you go in and work out and you eat enough to recover.
Yes.
So you can go in for another workout, but you may not be fully repaired. So you're ready for another workout because you've repaired. You've eaten enough to do that. That's going to lead to overtraining because you haven't repaired the damage. You're going to make more damage. You're going to cover the repair, only the first part, with your food, and you're going to start to overtrain. So let's say you do step 2. Let's say you eat enough to repair I may have misspoke, to recover so you can get back to the gym, and you've eaten enough to repair, and you keep doing that. Well, that means you are a master of maintenance then, because all you're doing there is having a good workout, a great workout. You are recovering, so you get back to the gym, and you have repaired. So you're right back to where you started, but you're no further down the road. So you have to do the 3rd thing. So you can walk that tightrope and ask yourself, how many calories exactly do I need to grow from this last workout without putting on any fat? And if you can figure that out, good for you. But the safe bet is to eat a little more than is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you know that is if you're putting fat on. So the only way to be absolutely sure that you got the most out of the last workout you had is to eat enough to recover so you can get back to the gym. Eat enough on top of that to repair any damage that happened. And that gets you back to where you started. But now you're not going to the gym to stay the same. You want to improve.
Yes.
So you have to eat enough to cover the growth that you've stimulated. That's why you went to the gym, to stimulate growth, not to get tired and come back and do the same thing again for a year, 2 years. Who knows how long you can keep that up.
Yeah.
You have to overdo.
I lost my mic and headphones.
Down on purpose because, Jan, you're going to have to speak up a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay, you only move closer or something?
No, you're good. You're about as close as you can get. But
All right.
Because I got nothing here.
you got any now, Dave?
Yeah, now I do. Actually, what you just explained and the way that you explained it is perhaps the best way that I've heard the super compensation cycle explained, because people of recent forget the 2 aspects that follow the recovery. It's recover, train. Recover, train. It's like, dude, recover, repair, grow. So there's adaptations that have to happen that if you're jumping too fast, throwing in extra workouts, throwing in extra training sessions, not getting the nutrition that you need, walking, like you said, walking that fine line, where it's always, you're already in strength sports, we're already walking a fine line. So, we're already looking over the edge. So
The thing that I think people miss, one of the biggest misconceptions about the gym, people have this irrational belief that they get stronger at the gym or that they get more muscular, they grow at the gym. Nobody ever got stronger in a gym. Let me tell you what happens in a gym. You get weaker, you get tired, you get broke down, you get fatigued in a gym. You don't get stronger. You don't come in, lift weights, and then leave stronger. You leave much weaker every time.
Broken down.
And broken down. Nobody ever got big in a gym. Nobody ever got strong in a gym. When do we get strong? When do we get bigger? When you leave the gym and you rest it and you feed it. That's when growth happens. That's when supercompensation occurs. And people are convinced that the gym is the secret to it all. And they forget about the rest. And that's unfortunate because the gym is just a stimulus for the growth.
Yeah.
Growth is what we want. You want to get to the gym, get your work done, get the hell out.
Yeah, the real work happens outside of the gym, but
The growth and the recovery and everything that you want happens away from all the weights.
yeah, with the weight gain, the palatability
Yeah.
is the one thing I never thought about, the one thing I never considered, because those breakfast sandwiches slide right down. Because I would eat them on the way to the gym.
Yeah.
They're right down.
Yeah.
It's over. You know, Chinese
think
food,
about
you
it.
eat that, you're hungry a half hour later.
That helps.
The pizza was rough, but
Yeah, but
you know,
it's so dense, it's so
yeah,
it's so full of calories.
yeah,
And so again, the calories, people talk about protein, they talk about macronutrients. When you're trying to gain weight, if you're eating upwards of 5,000 or 6,000 calories a day, you don't have to worry about protein. In this country, you don't have to worry about nutrients either. We have good food here. Even our crappy food is loaded with nutrients
it's
here.
vitamin fortified.
Yeah, it's good here. We have good food here. Even our bad food is healthier than the rest of the world. And so you don't need as much protein as people would have you think or have you believe, because
Yeah.
they sell protein so if you're eating 5,000 or 6,000 calories, you don't have to keep track of anything except the calories.
Yeah.
You'll get enough protein. You'll get enough nutrients. And if you're worried about nutrients, take a children's chewable 3 times a day. If you're worried about vitamins,
Yeah,
then that'll cover it. A children's chewable is about 1/3 of the adult requirement.
yeah,
And if you want extra vitamins, you can waste your money if you like. That's fine. It's your money. It's America. You can be
Yeah.
as wrong as you want.
Exactly.
You can go down any path you want, but it's not necessary, and it won't help any unless it helps you feel better and think better and train harder. So anything that makes your mind believe that you can do better, it's worth it in my book, even if it doesn't have any value in physiology terms. The real secrets, and we know physiology inside and out. We've studied it since the 70s. There's no new information out there. Where the groundbreaking is the mind. That's where. So if you can make your mind believe in yourself, you've got the world beat.
Yeah.
So that's where it goes.
yeah.
So,
We're gonna dig deep into that.
I hope so. Yeah. Good.
Let's flip it down.
Did I finish that idea?
Yeah,
Is
you
that a
definitely
complete
finished the
concept?
idea, because I think
Okay. So-
to sum it up, it's kind of what you told me. It's a calories per bite. It's
Yeah.
how many calories you're going to get per bite.
Getting
And
it
if you're
down.
trying to gain weight, you're going to cover almost all of your nutritional needs. The only thing I could possibly see if you live where we're from is maybe vitamin D not being met, maybe. But at 5,000 calories, I probably would agree
Drinking
that
milk.
it's going to be met, because the dairy is going to be in there and it's going to be there.
But
So,
anything you're worried about, go ahead and supplement that if you choose.
yeah. But
But if your blood work comes back and you're not low on magnesium or one of the B vitamins or vitamin D,
yeah.
those are the pretty popular ones for lifters, then it's not necessary. But if it changes your mind about what you think you can do, then I'll concede.
Exactly.
Go right ahead, man.
Yeah, yeah, oh,
If
yeah,
that-
yeah.
If you want to wear a special shirt and tie your shoes a special way, go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to fault anybody for having a
rock.
a rock or any sort of thing that gets them to focus their mind clearer and better.
Okay,
Anything.
Let's flip this, because the
Okay.
other thing that you were known for was going up weight classes, taking down records, but then going back down. Like
Right.
craziness. Like, I may be over exaggerating, but I actually think that I might be correct that in a 1 year period of time, you competed in the 198 class, went all the way up to super heavyweight, and back down
Yeah.
to 198
Yeah,
in
one
the
time,
same
that first
year.
year. Then I would go from 220, 242, 275, 308, and super.
So,
So that first year, though, yeah, I went all the way from 98 to super. And so people know about my gaining weight.
it's
That's what
the
I hear
losing
about.
weight I want to talk about.
Yeah, okay. Good,
All right,
good
so
for
let's
you,
get
Dave.
into that.
Good for you. That's adept of you. Yeah, because I used to burn it off. I could pull a pound a day. So 30 days, 30 pounds. 45 days, 45 pounds. 50 days, 50 pounds.
Should I
65
preface
days,
this
65
by
pounds.
saying that this is for competitive powerlifters?
Only.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
This is not healthy.
Okay. Okay.
This is no competitor at the top level of any sport
Is health.
has any concern about health. They concern about victory.
Mm-hmm.
And so they trade health a lot of times. Ask any NFL player. They're trading their brain function. They're trading their knees. Anybody at the top level has already made that deal with the devil and with themselves. They understand.
I'd say anybody striving for the type.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes the guys at the top genetically
Indeed.
have a big gift.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They have
gonna
a head start.
They got a head start. They're gonna pay their dues. They still got to work hard, but they may not take as many dings as the one that's a couple deviations under them
Right.
genetically. That's got to work super.
But for every
super.
one of those, there's 1,000 of us.
Yes.
So let's talk about us. Let's let
Yeah.
them go.
Exactly. True.
I
Okay.
discount them. I'm just going to round them down to 0
Yes.
because they're so rare.
True.
And it's true. It's absolutely true that genetics play a part. But any coach worth their salt will never mention genetics to their athletes.
True.
I heard Sam Ratigliano when he coached the Browns. He was at a press conference, and one of the newspaper guys asked him, "You think you're going to win today, Coach?" My dad loved this story. He said, "What the hell are you asking me?" Of course I think we're going to win. What do you want me to say to you? I think we're going to lose?
Yeah.
Now, we're outmatched. We're probably going to lose, but I can't say that to you. What kind of coach would I be if I didn't find a way to win or think I could find a way to win? I'm outmatched. I'm outgunned. But I'm going to try to find a way to win anyway.
Exactly.
So I find the same attitude with genetics. If you start to use that as your excuse why you're not performing, okay, there's your excuse.
Well, I've always said
If
that.
you use an injury, same thing. You gotta find a way.
Yeah, I've always said that. How can one know they have bad genetics if they haven't put a decade of really trying
Perfectly said.
into it?
You
Because
don't
you
know what
don't.
your genetics are until you've pushed it all the way.
Yeah, give me somebody that's pushed the edge for 10 years and can't total elite, or can't bench a 500. Then I would say, yeah, you know what? Probably you're not made for it, but there's still a way.
And
You
I would
just
say
haven't
even
found
4
it.
years at top speed, if you're doing everything, if you sacrifice everything else in your life, and you can.
Oh, yes, you can.
I know this. People, money, things.
I know it as well.
Opportunities. You can do it. And I would think 4 years, you would find out if you could or couldn't. And I bet you would find out you could.
Mm-hmm.
I ask people this. Tell me a time in your life where things didn't work out for you when you really set your mind to it. When you really set your mind to X, Y, or Z in your life so far, really did it, when you really said, I'm going to do this, did you come up empty? And I bet they tell you they didn't, because they know just as well as, any good coach knows, if I can get 100%, because we operate so low on a normal basis, if I can get 90%, I'm killing people.
Yeah.
And if I can get 100% out of somebody, who knows if they're not the next champion? They don't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Who grows up thinking they're going to be the guy, the one? You got to have faith in yourself. That's true. And you got to take your shot. You got to step up to the plate, right? But who goes through their life from, boyhood to manhood and says, I'm going to be the best at X, Y, or Z? That's a big bite to take.
That's a huge
I like to meet
bite.
that guy, but you find that out about yourself when you put yourself on the line for 4 years all the time, and you think to yourself, I never thought I could do that. So how far does this go? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I could bench 500, and I did. So what do I do with that? I could stop. I was perfectly satisfied. I really was. And you ask yourself, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? Can I do 505? That's not much more.
5
Maybe I could
pounds.
do that. And you keep asking that question. You keep asking yourself, where does this end? How far can I go? And that's how you find out something about your potential genetically. Something. But I will trade the mental side of things for the genetic side every time.
Yeah.
Because those genetic guys coast.
Yes.
And they can be beat because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I trained Chris Carter at the Ohio State Buckeyes when he was a player there. And it was miserable. Because he had no interest in doing sprints or working out or anything. He was a fantastic, fabulous athlete. He was always a step ahead of everyone else. He just wanted to play ball. And got to the NFL. Found out that everybody has that step.
Yeah.
And now he's just ordinary, if that. He crashed, right? He crashed down hard. I guess he found Jesus, and then he started putting the hard work in. So he had no work ethic. He didn't know what to do. He was beside himself. What do I do now? Because he had no work ethic, and he was very beatable. Now then, what happens when you put the genetic with the hard work? He did that, and he's one of the best there's ever been, Hall of Famer. I mean, so there's a good example from my own life, if not just me, learning that, hey, I don't know what I can do until, like you said, you put time in.
Yeah.
And it may take 10 years. So what? You don't have 10 years, right? If you're not willing to put in some time. So have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you put in time, and that has to be progressive time. You put in 10,000 hours of anything, that's progressive. You can't do the same hour over and over 10,000 times. Everyone has to build on the last one, like weightlifting. You can be in the top 2% of anything you choose. Me and you could become golfers at the Tiger Woods level if we started now, put in 10,000 hours, which is about 4 years of 10 hours a day. So what separates anybody from getting what they want and being in the top 2%? The willingness to put in 10 hours a day of progressively harder practice for 4 years or 10 years or however long it takes. That's what separates people. Their willingness, not their genetic, you and I, not their genetic potentials, not their genetics. Their willingness to employ the genetics they already have.
Yeah.
How many are doing that? Very few, right?
Yep.
So I'm a biologist, right? I know biology. I know evolution. I know how we got here. And you and I have the genetics of the best eyeballs that there were. Because the hunters that had the best eyeballs got the most meat for their families, and they kept their kids alive. Where the guys that couldn't see very well, they didn't get as much meat or any, and their children died. So they're not around. But your and I ancestors, because we're here, had great eyesight and had great adaptability and great, we had the best of everything. It wasn't like it is today where you can, excuse me, where you can just have your food handed to you.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a documentary about the rest of the world, and I learned two things. Most people are not white in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost no one's white in the world.
True.
And almost everyone in the world spends most of their day getting food. That's what people are designed to do, to go out and get food.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so who's going to employ? So these are good, genetically gifted, like athletes, super athletes, right? And they are our ancestors. So we have all that inside us. I believe this.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, we see somebody that employs it, and we have to ask ourselves, are they that special? Are they that different from me? Or how close am I to them? I think the answer is one thousandth of a percent. So
Yeah.
a tenth of 1%.
Small.
Genetically, you and I are
Yeah.
a tenth of 1%
Yeah.
different. And you and everybody else on the planet. And me and everybody else on the planet. And so in sports, we talk about genetics, all this. And first of all, as a good coach and a good trainer and a good motivator, I don't want to hear anything about that. Because I'm going to take what I have in front of me and I'm going to
Yeah.
find a way to win with that. Right?
Yep. That's all you got.
That's all I have, right? And so if I want to just give up, that's a good reason to give up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the genetics.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to work out. And Dave, I told myself that. When I was 242, I was trying to be 250. So I wanted to be 250 because I decided that's where the big human club started. I overheard that at a conference of strength coaches, and a kid got up and he was 250, and two coaches looked at each other and goes, "That's one big human." So I decided as a young man, 20, 22 years old, that's where big humans started, at 250. So I'm going to school and I'm trying to weigh 250. And I tried, David. I tried to eat and I tried to train, and I knew everything, that everybody else knew. I was going to school being taught by the best about how to do this. And 242. So I dieted down, tried again, 246. Dieted down, back up, 246. And I remember sitting in Larkins Hall, which was a place at Ohio State University that doesn't exist anymore, but it's where my office was and where all the phys ed stuff was. And I had stripped down and I was using the the scale there. And I'm sitting there and I said, I got to make it this time because I've eaten so much and I've trained so hard. And I step on the scale and I didn't make it again. And I decided, I picked up my Pop-Tarts that were sitting beside me. I'm still naked. I'm very depressed. And I began to open them, and I said, screw it. I don't have the genetics to weigh 250. I'm not eating anymore. I'm done. I told myself that same excuse. I'll never weigh 250 because of why? Not because I'm not training hard or not because I'm not eating enough, because I don't have the genetics. And that gets you off the hook. So anytime you want to use that, anybody that wants to use it can.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can decide that you're going to find a way to win with what you have. And that's a different attitude.
Yeah, I have a similar story to that from my college days, just in a little bit different context. I started powerlifting when I was a teenager and had a little bit of a bodybuilding stint, but was powerlifting through college and dabbled in sociology for a long time and then transferred over into exercise science. And when I transferred to Toledo and it was exercise science, they really didn't have that track set up yet. So I had to sit down with my counselor or whatever they're called and set it up. Say, okay, I need exercise science, I need public speaking. This is what I need to be a strength coach, and lay out the foundation for that. And during the same 2-year period that I was studying those courses, my total got stuck between 1940 and 2000 over a period of 7 meets. And I remember I had one professor that actually lifted weights, which was rare because most of them were runners, cardio based,
That's where the money in research is. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And I walked into his office and said, and at the time I was reading the Soviet Sport Review by Yessis.
Yeah.
I found the NSCA journal. I'm reading everything I can to try to figure out, I'm studying Spazov shit. I'm trying to do that, anything. And I can't get it to work. And I remember having this conversation with him and him telling me that, Dave, there is a ceiling for everybody on where your strength can be. And I asked him to explain this a little bit more in depth because I was confused. Because if I added my best lifts together, they exceeded the total that he was talking about. And he went on to say that, over the last 2 years, you've accumulated more and more injuries because you're trying to break through what your body's actually capable of doing. And like yourself, I believed it. And it took me tearing my pec off at Columbus Athletic League bench meet that you very well possibly could have been in. And Louis coming up to me, and I told him at the time that, because Louis always mentored me even when I was a teenager, I said, you know what, I think I'm done, man. I said, it's 2 years, this is going nowhere.
Yep.
My pec, pec right now is under my nipple. I mean, it's gone, and this is all I can do. And he said, I believe his exact words were, no, this is all you think you can do. You come with me and I'll show you a way to do more. So we can debate, the West Side principles and so forth, but you can't debate the guy as a coach, as far as his ability.
Up here.
Yes.
You think, that's what he said, you think you're done.
Yes.
He was talking about the attitude you need to have to change.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he knows biology and evolution, but we all have a warrior inside us. We all have a gorilla inside us.
Yeah.
We all have a marathon runner inside. We all have all of that because all the other genetic people are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't make it. The survival of the fittest weeded out all the people with bad eyesight and weak arms and not a bunch of adaptability. And so we have all that inside us, or not, right? You can
It
decide
might,
that
it
we
could
don't,
be you don't
but
know.
I think we do.
Because Louis woke something that, at that point in time when I left, the only thing in my mind was this could work. It might not work, but regardless of what happens, I'm not going to leave the sport asking myself, what if, no matter what.
That's hard.
So from here on out,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that and continue down that path. We got off track. So how
I don't know
did
if
you
I finished
cut the
that
weight?
idea.
Yeah. How did you
Yeah.
cut weight?
Everything that I have done ever has never relied on any of the advanced knowledge that I have, except of the mental part. But all of the biology and physiology can be gleaned from a basic understanding of how things work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overload, calories, nutrition, everything. You take a basic nutrition class, you know everything you need to know.
Yeah,
You take
I
a
agree.
basic training class, you know everything you need to know. The basics are all you need. Now, it's nice to know because I'm curious about things, and I explored it because I'm just so damn curious, right? But everything I do relies on simplicity. There's nothing complicated. The more people complicate things, the more I think they're full of crap, you know?
Yes.
And because I'm absolutely certain, because I lived it and I live it every day, that the simplicity trumps everything. You can go as far as you need to go with the basics.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need some sort of advanced anything. Because, like we said, or we mentioned, that very few people are operating at 100%. They're operating at about 40%. So you can take the basics to get you to 60% and beat them all.
Mm-hmm.
And then the couple guys that are operating at 60%, you can take your knowledge and go a little bit harder and go to 60 or 70% and beat those guys. Very few times do we ever have to go 100%, life or death. And those are amazing stories, right? You've heard stories like that. We all have. Some of them are fabricated, but some of them are real.
Yeah.
So dieting is as simple as gaining weight. You shut off the flow. You restrict calories in number in a stepwise fashion. So the first week, you just stop overeating. You stop shoveling it in.
Yeah.
And you go 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, 3,500, 3,000. And you get down as low as you need to go to make your goal. And now you want to care about vitamins and minerals now because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the calories to make that are going to assure that you get. So
You're in a
now you
deficit.
want to look at your protein, right?
Yeah, as soon as you hit a
now you
deficit.
want to. So on the dieting down, that's when you got to pay attention much, much more, because you need the protein to cover, and you need the and you want to limit the fat, but not too much, and so that's when all that stuff matters.
And
a little
food
more.
quality matters too.
Yeah,
A lot.
Absolutely, because now you want a good now you want the opposite of what you did.
Yes.
You want to feel full. And so one of my secrets, I can show you this, no secret, but I ate 3 pounds of broccoli a day. Every day I'm shoveling food through. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, because when people starve and cut their calories to 1,800 or 2,000 or whatever, how low they have to go to get to where they want to go, you have 30 feet of bowel that's a muscle that's moving through you, and it's active, and it's always pushing. And if anybody's eating 5,000 or 6,000 calories, it keeps pushing. You take a bunch of craps a day, right? Because it's moving. It's moving. It's moving. It's metabolically active. So you want to keep that metabolically active. So the truth is, if you ate paper, that would keep the stomach moving. Instead of when you starve, everything sits still, goes quiet. All that 30 feet of muscle that used to be running is now quiet. It's not burning any calories for you, just pushing the food through. So if you push paper through, that's better. Well, I don't know how healthy eating paper is. I don't think it hurts anything, but
No.
I'll just eat broccoli, which is pretty close. Lettuce is pretty damn close to paper. 3 pounds a day. That way my metabolism doesn't get shut down like most people's does when they restrict calories. Now, I'm not getting many calories from the broccoli or the lettuce, Not money at all, about 150 per pound.
How many stalks of broccoli is that?
I used to buy, well, this was back when.
Like the whole store?
No, it's just you buy a frozen bag of broccoli. It used to be 16 ounces. It's 12
Yeah,
now.
I got you.
16 ounces. Throw it in a microwave, eat it.
Yeah.
Throw another one in. So 3 of those a day.
Got it.
And they were less than $1 back then.
Yeah.
But that kept your stomach and your bowel moving, and that kept your basic metabolic rate up. Instead of when you starve, when you cut the flow off completely, nothing's moving through, so it settles down. It goes quiet.
So that was grazed. The broccoli was basically grazing all day long.
No, I used to eat it at certain times
So
because
as
of
meals.
Yeah, and the worst one was the night one. And I look down in a bowl of vegetables
Yeah.
every night and just put another fork down, and just as much, it's exactly the same discipline as when I had to put a fork down and shove something in my mouth. Now I'm shoving something in that doesn't give me any calories.
Yeah.
And it's keeping me, and I know what it's doing, right? And so you know that if you're not pooping every day, you're not keeping that active. And so that's one thing you can do. But the bottom line is you got to cut the calories, and you can do it 3 ways. Way number 1, starve. You'll lose weight. Don't put enough calories in to run your system. Okay. Number 2, eat exactly what you've been eating, but over-exercise. There's not a marathoner on the planet who doesn't lose weight coming up to a event. They eat as many hot fudge sundaes as they want. They can't eat enough because they're burning so many. So one is to cut the intake. The other one is to increase the output. Or number 3, a little bit of both. Cut the intake down and increase the output. So for me, I don't like starving. So I would rather burn off a pound than starve off a pound. So I did a lot of cardio. I didn't mind. It was time I could think, I could listen to music, I could listen to books on tape, I could actually read on the recumbent bikes when those came out.
What was your preferred cardio source?
I did my triathlon every morning. I did 40 minutes on the treadmill, 40 minutes on the stair climber, and 40 minutes on the recumbent bike. You know, and then sometimes I would go back, and there was a place because of where I lived that had a pool, and I'd go in and do goofy makeshift aerobics in the pool just to get some weight off and still move and burn some calories. So I love the recumbent bike because you can read.
Yeah, you can do stuff.
I like that, and I used to walk to the gym every day. I used to run the World Gym up there, and I had a 30-minute get right to work loop from my home, and I had a hour loop, and I had a 2-hour loop. And so if I got up early enough, I could walk for 2 hours before my day started. I'm not making this up. I would put my socks on and my shorts, and I would roll out of bed, put my feet in my shoes, and put a shirt on and get walking. I mean, that fast. And you know, it's at 3 a.m. I had to be at work at 6, and so if I took a long loop and had to get ready and stuff, but it was nice. I was out there. It was dark. I was alone. I could think. I could do my visualizations. I was always practicing.
Yeah, the mental walks. I'm
was a
gonna
good
bring that back when we talk about the mind.
You could solve a problem. You could think about your relationship. You can get right with yourself, and we don't have time to do that in our normal lifestyle anymore. Nobody makes time for that. I don't understand that, because I make time every day to think, to sit and think. And I'm always reminded of Charles Darwin's kid. He said about his dad, he said, it's hard to tell when Daddy's working or just taking a nap. Because he would just lay on his couch, you know, and sit and think and lay and think. And the kid was like, is he sleeping or is he? And he's working hard because he's thinking about something. He's trying to understand something or make sense of something. And so to end the story, then, it's just a matter of finding a way to balance how many calories you want to restrict and how low you want to go and how many calories you want to burn. Because every day, it's your bank account. Your fat is your bank account. In versus out equals net. So how much you putting in, how much you taking out, pretty soon that bank account goes down if you're spending more than you're putting in.
Once you blow the water off in the initial phase, what would you consider being, for the strength athlete, the greatest amount of weight they would want to lose per week?
as much as you can. Dave, I hate to lose training time. So I want to get the weight off, get down to my class. And there is a secret, or there is an understanding to putting the calories in when you need them. So I trained 2 days a week. I trained the bench on my own at the World Gym, and then for about 3.5 years, I went every Wednesday to the West Side and trained triceps. That was my tricep day. And so, when do you need food then? If you're cutting for an event, you need food for that training, and you need a little food for the recovery, right? You can't train and not recover. So the only time you need, so you have to think about your timing of when you're going to give yourself some extra calories, and that should be prior to your training. Give yourself something to train on. And I was able to keep training as I cut weight. So as I was quote unquote starving down, I use that term when I restricting down, right? I fed myself right at the right moment so that I could use that energy to keep progressing and keep training. And then I cut it off again as soon as I felt like I had recovered. And I'm not sure that I always recovered, but so I don't like these long drawn out diets. I want to get it over with. I want to, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. If you're comfortable, some people are okay being uncomfortable. All those Navy SEAL guys, they go to triathlon events to get those guys. And snipers, you got to be uncomfortable. You got to be okay with just laying there for 3 days. You got to be uncomfortable with being cold all day long, all night long. You got to be uncomfortable not eating for 3 days, 5 days. Those people are okay with being uncomfortable. I'm not one of those. I don't like to be uncomfortable, so I have some tolerance for it. I have some discipline for it, but I'd rather get the diet done quickly. So I was all about burning it off rather than starving it off. So I really upped. I lost 86 pounds in 12 weeks once. That's the best I ever did. 86 and 12, because after you get over 70 pounds, it's tough.
Yeah.
There's not much left to come down.
Yeah.
So you're looking for something anywhere in your body you can get rid of. And 86 pounds in 12 weeks, and I lost my train of thought. David, what were we talking about? What was I saying?
The maintenance, or not the
apologize.
maintenance, but how much you could cut per week. So cutting it fast.
I like to cut it fast so that I could keep training.
Yeah.
And I think I went off track there, but I have to apologize. That happens to me sometimes.
You answered it. That you got that. Let's hit the JM press and then get on to some more recent stuff. With the JM press, obviously, where I think most people have issues with it is they have different arm sizes. And a lot of the JM press is really based upon the feeling of the forearm against the bicep. And that's where people get it messed up, in my opinion. They don't have biceps or forearms.
Yeah.
So
why is that, Dave?
Because they're not doing JM presses.
Because they're not training their biceps and forearms.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I've heard
Would you say that that if that's the case, then this is probably a movement they shouldn't be doing yet?
No. Because I did it at 340 pounds and I did it at 225 pounds. So I know what that feels like to lose that tissue leverage.
Yes.
I'm clear on that.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
That is a factor.
Yeah.
And man, you miss it when you don't have it, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, you guys that squat and they go deep enough, they start to feel that pressure gone when they start leaning out, right?
Well, the JM press,
same thing.
Certainly helps the bottom.
Yeah.
Coming out of the bottom tremendously.
Yeah, but I don't think it's so much an issue of arm size, but you do want as much as you can, right?
Yes.
So my answer is, if you don't feel like you have enough tissue leverage, train your forearms. Do some hammer curls. Get that part of the forearm built up, and do some biceps. Guys think, well, I don't use my biceps at all in powerlifting, so I don't have to train them. All right.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can not train anything you don't want to train, and I understand that. But here's a good example where you might want to help. It will help. I tell people it's like taping a tennis ball with duct tape to the inside of your arm. When that comes down, it wants to pop right back up. So the more you have there, the better. So absolutely true that people with less have a harder time. But you can fix that.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
can fix that with training.
it was
You
just
could have
training.
plenty there, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
build that right up.
Yeah.
What I worry about with the JM press is I didn't start doing it. It was an accident of where I wanted to, again, I'm super big on recovery. So how can I get the value of a skull crusher and a close grip bench press and not have to do both of them? So I blended them together as an accident, right? Because I needed to just recover. I couldn't do 3, 4, even 2 tricep exercises after a while because the load was so much. You get something out of the first one, you get nothing out of the second exercise. So why do it? But so that's sort of what happened. It came out of an accident, but I had really been training for triceps quite a bit, and I had strong triceps. So for me, it wasn't too much of a jump to do it. When I teach people, I notice that their tricep strength goes up very, very quickly, faster than their tendons can handle it. And what I worry about with it is if somebody starts it, and I have a couple guys starting it now, that they're going to be so excited with their strength that they're going to outstrip their tendons' ability to keep up. And that's the thing I worry about most. So I always tell anybody I get a chance to, take it slow. Build it into your program. Work it. I mean, I don't know of any better tricep exercise. It's great. It's half of one and half of another, and you get the benefits of both. But it builds so much tendon strength, but that takes time. So you see your training weights go up, and you want to keep pushing, and the recovery, the repair, the growth, right? We talked about it. You outstrip that.
Yeah.
That exercise could be dangerous because it goes so fast, and if you're not careful with the elbow, so you got to pay attention. So this gets back to awareness. If you're not aware of what your body, and you just block your body out, and you just try harder, you're not paying attention to what you're doing. I could see people being angry about the JM press, like that thing hurts your elbows. It's like people that say they hurt their back or their knees squatting. Nobody ever hurt their back or knees squatting properly. Only improperly, right? Yeah, so if you do this properly, you're not going to hurt your elbows. But I could see where the temptation would be to.
Yeah, I can see that. The benefit that I found from when you brought it into Westside was my shoulders were already an issue. So close grip bench presses were already an exercise that was out of my arsenal. I had to take it out. Too much shoulder rotation. So I was stuck to 1 board, 2 board, and it was still a press. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, here we go now. I can get this right on, and both my pecs have been torn. So what we were working on with my bench is how can I bench with the least amount of pec activation and only triceps. So it's basically a tricep extension, shoulder rotation, tricep extension, no pec. And so that was pressing in a straight line, and building the absolute shit out of the JM press.
Yeah.
Because nothing else was going to do it.
I don't know of anybody that missed a max bench press pinned against their chest. Everybody fails somewhere where the triceps have, taken control. So you shift from the chest drive to the triceps. And I don't know, and some people get stuck in the transition, right? But nobody can't lift the bar off their chest. They can't lock it out. So I've gotten used to saying, every failure is a lack of tricep strength. And that's oversimplifying, but again, it's true. You don't fail on the chest. Now, it's true that if you build enough momentum with the chest, you can kind of bump yourself over that hill, right, and continue. But I'll tell you what, if it's a real max,
if it's a real max, you're gonna have a hard time.
You're not getting much momentum out of the hole. It's hard the whole way.
Yeah,
it's hard the whole way. And where people seem to fail, I haven't seen them meet for years, so I don't know what's going on now. But let's just take the bench press without the shirts and everything. Just pushing it off your chest. Nobody fails with it stuck on their chest.
Yeah,
they get it up and get it going, and then something's weak. What is it? Shoulders? Probably not. Chest? Probably not. Triceps.
Yeah.
So it boiled down to that. Who's ever, the meets when I was competing, I looked at it. Who's got the strongest triceps? and they're probably going to do well.
Oh yeah.
And that's how I looked at it. And I don't know that it's changed that much, but I know that, a bench without a shirt is that way.
Yeah, I'm going to show our age here, but I remember it was Louis had, a lot of very intelligent people when it comes to training in the gym at the same time, because you were writing articles, George was writing articles, I was writing articles, so we had a lot of different minds, and Louis was writing articles, of course, and but I remember you wrote an article once on the bench shirt, and it pissed me off because it was about using the bubble on the bench shirt.
Yeah.
And that if you learned how to use the bubble right, you should be able to get 60 pounds out of your bench shirt. I'm like, 60 pounds, motherfucker. Who the hell gets 60 pounds out of their bench shirt?
Yeah.
It's like, God, man, I'm getting like 20 pounds. He's getting 60 pounds. This is bullshit. So I'm trying to figure this out. And then fast forward,
Wow.
5-6 years later, and it's like 350 pounds out of the bench shirt or 200 pounds out of the bench shirt.
Yeah.
Like, I was mad because you figured out how to get 60. And it's like, holy crap, 60 is like the starting point, but that's kind of irrelevant at this point in time.
That's a good point, though, Dave. It's a good point. It's, guys like us might be tempted to say, well, those guys with the bench shirts nowadays getting 2 and 3 and 3+ out of their shirt. Back in my day, we didn't even get 100, right? And that's not the issue. The issue is the sport has changed.
Oh, yes.
Just like, and I use this example, just like when pole vaulting went to the fiberglass pole.
Mm-hmm.
And the pole bent in half and lifted guys up 19 feet in the air all of a sudden, right?
Yep.
So the guys that were done would say, well, that's not pole vaulting. That doesn't have anything to do with pole vaulting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what pole vaulting has become.
Yeah.
And so you got a choice. And this is how I looked at it, because I started when shirts were optional.
Mm-hmm.
No, but if you put a shirt on good, it might help your shoulders. You might get 10 or 15 pounds out of it.
Yeah, I started the same way.
You could put it on yourself.
Yeah.
You can take it off yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look at now, right? Why complain?
Yeah.
It was a different thing back then.
Yeah. The sport's gone pretty
it's
much
okay.
100% raw now.
I like that, of
But,
course.
yeah.
I like strength, but I looked at it as if I don't master this skill, somebody else will, and they'll
it
get
was
60
a skill,
or 70 or 80 pounds, and I'm
Yes.
giving that up if I don't learn how to do it.
Yeah. And the bench shirt, when it was at its most gangster, I guess, they still had to stabilize the load. They still had to take
Yeah.
the weight out and hold it.
Yeah.
Which was a big thing. Then they had to lower it, and then they still had to lock it out. I mean, so what happened with gear, and I like how you use the word skill, because that's how I explain it, is the sport became extremely skill oriented. More so, it actually moved a little bit away from being a strength sport to
Indeed,
being
some
a
guys were skilled.
skill sport.
They could beat you with their skill.
Yes.
That's like a real sport, though. That's
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
I was okay with that because
I
of
was
that.
too.
I admire strength, right?
Yep.
And that has to come in first. But I also admire somebody that practices
Skill.
enough to get
If the
good.
person that takes the time to build better skill set
10,000 hours
can beat the stronger person, then that's the stronger person not taking the time to work their skill,
Right.
master the craft.
Right, they're
So-
relying on what they have instead of what they
Yeah.
can learn.
So that part of the sport I actually kind of liked, because it's like, okay, you're strong, all right,
Yeah.
but there's another component here, just like most other sports. And it's, like I said, it's become raw pretty much 100% now, so it's
I
gone
really
back.
admire that. I like that.
So it's back to where,
Yeah.
I mean, when I started, it was single ply, so I mean, everything's goes in cycles.
Yeah.
But let's go deep now. Let's get out of this
All right.
history bullshit.
Yeah.
With the JM press and dieting and losing weight. So for all those people, we covered all that shit. The one thing I want to note with JM is he's, as far as profession wise, worked as a strength coach and, taught a little bit too, right?
Indeed.
But throughout all that time, and even now, you still train people in real life.
Yeah.
Not online.
Trained
but
them this morning,
in
Dave,
real
before
life.
I came down to see you.
So that's what his profession is. So the art of training people is also an art of communication. It's an art of mastery of nonverbal communication. Reading people's skill sets, being able to motivate them to do things they otherwise may not want to do.
Or may not believe they can do.
Or
like
not believe that they can do.
When Louis came to you and said, you don't think you can do
Yes.
that. Yeah, people don't think they can be what they can be.
Yeah.
As coaches, we know we get good at seeing what's in them.
Yes.
Now, they may not see it.
And when I worked as a trainer, it was Gen Pop, so you're dealing with completely different mindset there, all the way up to going into West Side and having to train with the guys there. So it's a diverse group of different mindsets to try to balance and figure out. So with the mental aspect, I remember, just to throw some old stories out, you carrying around a rock that had 700 on it. It was kind of like they used to sell the old pet rocks when I was a kid. It's like a pet rock. I remember at one
Carried
point,
it everywhere it went.
Yeah, I remember at one point in time, your lifting partner would write 700 on his forehead upside down.
He's done it, yeah.
Yep. So when he gave you the lift off, you'd be able to see that. But I mean, those are all kind of fun, type of stories. But I also remember, seeing you in the warm-up room in a meditative state for God knows how long, however long it took. It could be a half hour, it could have been an hour. It was just like, okay, it's what he does. It's what he does to get ready. So I think the mind, as far as sports, business, and life, is greatly untapped. And it seems to be what you've been tapping out a little bit on your Instagram about and talking about. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Let me make one thing. Let me make everyone angry.
Yeah.
All right? So people are fond of saying everybody's different. And to that I say bullshit. Physically. Remember we talked about biology and how we all have the same ancestors and they were all the best of the best because those are the ones that survived. So physically, no. We're about 1/1000% different. We are not physically different. That's why you can use a very narrow range of medicine and pretty much hit everybody because everybody's about the same. And everybody responds about the same. Now, where I will agree wholeheartedly, and this is the direction we're going to go, is mentally and personality-wise, we are very, very different. And so when you said about the general population and being such a wide stretch, that's true. It's crazy wide, right? But I want to make a statement, and then I want people to think about it. How different are we physically? Your muscles are made out of the exact same molecules as mine are. Your bones are made out of the same stuff. All the physiological processes in our body follow the same rules. Your nerves conduct the same way. There are small differences. There's small differences in metabolism. Those are so small, I'm going to round those down to 0.
Yeah.
Because they're so little, I don't want to talk about them. Right?
Yep.
I'm going to round that just down to nothing. And what I want to talk about is where we are different. Right? And this is where I'll agree with people. Yeah, everybody's different, personality and mental. And that's where I think we need to go. You know how to train people. I know how to train people. It's known information. Anybody can follow the system, follow the program, stick with the program, eat the food, you'll get what you want. You get what we promise, right? You tell an athlete, do this and you'll get this. Everybody knows that. All the programs are built to make you strong. And they all work. So what's going on? How come we're so much different? And I think that's where we are different. So what would you like to talk about the mental side of things?
Well, if you're speaking of, let's just go with the programming, okay? Same program, 2 different people. Works for one, doesn't work for another.
No, the program works for both of them, Dave, because the program is solid. It's never failed anybody.
Yeah, but mentally...
The person fails, right?
Yes, the person fails.
Right.
That's what I want to talk about. Where, how,
Okay.
what's going on in their head.
And, you know, I know absolutely nothing about what's going on in your head except what you tell me. I know everything that's going on in my head, and that's where I'm stuck. So if I don't get feedback from you or my athletes, I tell them I can see everything you're doing. 100% of what you're doing I can see. And 0% of what you're feeling I can feel. I know nothing about what you're feeling. I know everything about what I can see you doing. So I need that information. So you talked about how you communicate with your athletes, how you understand them, how they make themselves understood to you. That's where this is at, right? This is the question, right? They got to be on board with opening up and giving you the best information they have. So they have to be at least able to communicate in words and nonverbal too, right? They're, you know, I worked with teenage kids teaching, and they don't want to tell you what's really going on, but you can figure it out, right? If you ask the right questions and see what happens, you can, you know. So I read a lot of books about body language and that's important. That's really good. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think I tell people that enough. And so that's going to be good. But you rely on what they tell you, and it has to be fairly accurate. So one thing we know about young kids and people that want to please you, no matter what level they're at, they don't want to really displease you. They don't want to tell you, you know, the whole story necessarily. So they'll hide information from you that you need. And so you got to get this trust level built up. Slowly but surely. You build trust only one way. You can't say, yeah, you got to trust me. That doesn't work. You know, when President Trump says, believe me, I don't believe him. I want to see, you know, make me trust you by coming through. So as a coach, I have to come through for these people. And I have to come through with something little, and then something bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, maybe they'll trust me enough to, instead of going, hey, do you understand that? Do you really understand what I'm telling you? And they go, yes. And they keep nodding their head. Okay, do you understand this? Is this adding up to you? Yes, yeah. And they don't, right? Because they don't want to tell you, no, I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense, JM. That's dumb. How does that work? They don't want to say that. They want to please you. They want to hide their lack of understanding. And so that you have to build trust. And the only way to build trust is you ask them to trust you on a little tiny thing. They do, and you come through. You ask them to trust you on a little more, and you come through. And you can't mess that up once. That's got to be like 100% or as close as you can manage, you know. Because you let them down once, especially as you get going. You let them down on something big one day, you just went way back, right? But if they trust you, they'll give you more information, and you'll understand them. I have my clients write for me. If something happens in a workout that I find that's interesting or unusual or I think matters, I'll say, I want you to write one paragraph on this, 3 or 4 sentences. What happened when we did that? What was going on there? You can tell me what you felt. You can tell me what you think was going on. You can write anything. There's no rules. Because I don't really care what they write. I care about how they write it to me and how they start telling me who they are. I was there for the workout. I saw what happened. I don't need to know that. I know what was going on in their bodies. I kind of know what's going on in their head a little bit, right? Because I can see it in their actions, right? We betray our thoughts with our actions. But I want to know about the person. The more I know about the person, the more I'll be able to motivate them. The more I understand them, the more of their personality that is very, very different than mine, right? There's where we're different. That then I can say, okay, this would work for me, but that's not going to work for them at all. They're never going to understand that. And so you have to tell somebody something the way they need to hear it. One of my friends was having a conversation with his wife on the phone. There was some I could only hear half of it. He said, yeah, I told you. She must have said, no, you didn't. Yeah, I did. And this goes back and forth for a minute. And then he says, yeah, I did tell you, but I must not have told you the way you needed to hear it. And I thought that was brilliant of him. Number one, he made the gesture to compromise. Number two, I think that's true. People don't listen to every word we say. They hear what they want to hear sometimes, right? So we got to find a way as coaches to say it in a way that they can hear it the way we want them to hear it. so that they can understand it the way we want them to understand it. And so you may say it one way, and yeah, okay. But then they'll tell you one day, man, when you said that, when you gave me that analogy of trying to, I don't know, push out against the walls or whatever, you give it to them in the right way, and they bite. And you think to yourself, man, I've been saying this for a long time, but I didn't say push out the walls. You know, I said something else. I said something else that meant the same thing, right? I want your muscles to do this, or I want you to, but you said it in the right way finally. And they'll tell you, and so that's what I seek to do. I try to say it in the right way, not the way I understand it necessarily. And so I tell people, I said, let me explain this to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you, if this doesn't add up, common sense, right? Then ask me to explain it again because I did a bad job. So let me try again. I'll say it a different way. And you keep doing that because I'm right about this. And I know I'm right. And if you don't think I'm right, if you don't agree that I'm right, then I did a terrible job explaining myself. It's my fault. So I need to say it the way you need to hear it. I need to give you this information so that you can have it. And I put that burden on myself, you know, not them, right? Put that on myself. Let me try again. And I'm a fairly creative guy, so if I can't do it, I'll keep trying. I'll try to create a way that makes sense to you.
Well, the burden should be on you because if you're the person that is coaching,
you know it. They don't know it yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're the one that has the.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've seen so many coaches put the burden on the athlete. I don't believe in negative motivation. I don't believe in this, you tell me I can't do something and I'll just do it. That's complete and utter bullshit. Anybody who's read a book about teaching, coaching, parenting, or dog training knows that you can't use and since the 90s forward, I mean, I grew up with that, right? I grew up with the football coach grabbing your face mask and throwing you around and telling you you're nothing, and thinking that's going to motivate you. What the coach, that's the laziest way of coaching. Because I'm trying to make you mad and find it in yourself all by yourself. I'm going to piss you off so much that you're going to ruminate and find that will in your own. That's self-motivation. I didn't motivate you as a coach. I didn't tell you how to find that. I just put it all on you. You come through or you don't. You can't do this. You won't be able to do this. You can't lift that. That's not motivating.
Yeah.
You know, that's poking somebody. And then if they get mad enough, maybe they'll do it. But you didn't teach them anything. They did that all by themselves. You were barely necessary. So I think it's a lazy way out to negatively motivate. And you can do it. I mean, the United States military does it all the time.
Yeah, but with that, isn't that really it's a reaction. It's a reaction to the stimulus, which is, you know, it's not really something that's going to carry through because they're going to need that stimulus to create that reaction.
Every time.
So that means if they're a football player, they need to have a negative, bad situation happen before they can actually react.
I've seen lifters get the shit beat out of them before they lift.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessary, right? Don't you have that? Can't you just turn that button on yourself? Why is somebody going to slap you in the face 100 times? I tried it. I tried it. I feel it. I tried the ammonia. I tried all that. Okay. If that's a part of your triggers, that's part of your method, and that's part of your ritual, fine. If that brings it out, like acupuncture or whatever else, okay. I'm not going to argue with you if you're successful with that. I'm just going to question whether it was necessary and is there a better way. And there is a better way. The better way is for you to teach your people how to bring this out of themselves. That's a lot harder. That's a lot of work on your part and their part.
So the question I would have is bring what out? Confidence?
There's only one way to build confidence, David. There's only one way on the whole planet. Same way you build trust. You cannot build confidence by telling somebody they need to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. Tell me, how do I believe in myself? How do I do that, Coach? Well, you have to. You got to keep positive attitude. Yeah, I know that, Coach. How do I get a positive attitude? How do I generate that? You have to teach them how to do it. And if you don't know how to do it, then you need to do some research as a coach. Because people know how to do this. People know how to teach other people to do it. So the only way to build confidence is by victory experiences. If you tell me to be confident and I have no victory experiences, I have no reason to be confident in myself. However, if you give me a little task and I do it, and I say, give yourself a pat on the back for that. Just tell your subconscious, Good job. That's what I wanted to do. And remember this. Then you give them a very carefully selected next challenge. So this is the coach's or trainer's job to set out, or the teacher or the parent, set out a series of events that are graded in order to lead them somewhere. And where you're leading them is to have a whole bunch of history of confidence behind them. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. And sooner or later, they can look back and go, hey, I did all those things. I have a good reason to be confident. You can't have nothing under there and say, look back and have a reason to be confident in yourself. There's no reason.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just choose confidence. You have to build confidence.
Yes.
And a good coach or parent or teacher or dog trainer knows how to set up those events. So part of my job as a coach or a teacher or parent or anything is to ask for something that is challenging enough that it will have a reward. Too small, no reward. I use the example of tying your shoes. Your goal for tomorrow is to tie your shoes before you leave. Okay, you did it. Good job. Not enough. No reward. It has to be challenging enough that there's some reward for them. So it has to be difficult, but it cannot be impossible, because you'll teach them the opposite. You'll teach them not to believe in themselves. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. So you have to be very, very careful. So here's the art and skill of training someone. Ask for the appropriate next step. And if you screw it up, you're going to lose confidence. If you do it right, you'll build confidence. And pretty soon, that ball is like a snowball. It just keeps going. I did this, I did that, I did that. What can't I do? Right? And then you ask that question, what can I do? I wonder how far this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, confidence. Yeah, but you can either throw it on them and say, man, you got to believe in yourself. You don't have any faith in yourself. You should be more positive about yourself. No, you got to teach them how to do that. And, I came up with the coaches that believe that, they could just make you mad, and that's how it motivates you. And yeah, I don't like to be pushed around. So yeah, I reacted, right? But I reacted to their action. I didn't take the action on my own.
Yes.
That's what you're saying about
yes,
always need that. That's what you're saying. So if we can teach athletes how to generate it,
yes,
I promise you that pushing people only goes so far. They run out and they quit and they stop before the guy who learns how to do it.
Yeah.
He'll keep going. So you're going to run out if you're coaching and you're using that negative method, piss people off and tell them they can't do it, and oh boy, I told you couldn't do it, and then you did it. See, I'm a good coach. No, you're not. You're a terrible, horrible, worthless coach.
Yeah.
I don't need you at all. You're in the way. In fact, get out of the way. Let somebody else have your job. So that runs out. That only goes so far.
And it's not very far, because it's all reactionary, and what we want is, I don't know if there's a word actionary, but what we want is action oriented.
Yeah.
Because let's go with strength sports to circle back then, let's say now we're going to start talking about the arousal curve and being able to take yourself to a state, a void state, an unknown state, that no way are you going to get there from somebody negatively trying to piss you off. It's just not going to be there. You got to have
Good
what
luck
you're
with
saying.
that. I mean, if you do, it's an accident.
You got to have a lot of small little successes to be able to even put yourself, and I'm guessing here, I'll let you take over, but even halfway up the curve, because the peak of the curve is where you want to be if you want to try to break an all-time world record.
You can't go too far; it starts to go the other way.
Exactly. So you can't let it go too far.
Right.
But there's that little top there where it takes a little work. It may take visualization. It may take, a lot of work. Vision walks. Picturing in your mind over and over and over and over and over. But I don't think, in my opinion, you can even begin doing that work if you haven't had that
you're just pissed off?
base
No.
beforehand.
Yeah. No.
Because you got to have something to visualize that was successful.
Repeat that, Dave. I talked over you. Say what
Yeah,
you
you
said.
got to have something to visualize that was successful to begin with.
Indeed. You said something prior to that. You said, I don't think you can get even halfway there.
I don't think you
if
can
you
get
don't.
even halfway up, to that curve, to that point to where you could start even trying to express
Right.
that upper quadrant of the arousal curve before it becomes negative, if you haven't had positive
Yeah.
success
Okay. I agree. Yes.
and actions, because you
Yeah.
got to have something positive.
You
to
have no reason to
visualize.
believe in yourself if you haven't come through for yourself.
Yes.
So what I try to teach people is that you can come through for yourself. You can. You do it with this little thing. Then you do it with that little more thing. Then you do it. And then if you keep that up, that becomes your habit. Your habit becomes coming through for yourself, not making an excuse for why you didn't come through for yourself. The habit with most people that I see, and I live in Youngstown, and it's harsh up there. Things are
Oh
hard.
yeah. It's
And there's a lot of excuses of why I couldn't. Why I couldn't be here on time. Why I couldn't finish your lawn. Why I couldn't finish this job. Why I didn't get this done on time. Why? There's always an excuse for not performing. And it's rampant up there because it's accepted, because people accept the excuse. Well, if you start accepting that excuse, then you'll keep giving them. It's way easier to give an excuse than to come through. But if you do the opposite, if you start coming through, it's easier to come through the next time. And it's easier to come through the next time. You build this habit. But they're baby steps, to use a very old term. They're baby steps, but they matter because they are your personal history. And you have a good right to believe in yourself then. You have a right to believe in yourself. If you came through on this and this and this and this, and I'm asking for this, you should be confident. You've done all this other stuff. This is only a little bit further down the road. It's harder. It feels harder. It is harder. But you have every right to believe that you can do it. Because why? Because you just decided you could do it? No, because you have all this history of victory. So creating victory experiences for our athletes, our kids, that's important. And that keeps rolling. Now they can stop anytime they want, but it kind of takes on its own momentum. And they do great things sometimes.
all right. Let's stay on the same topic, but
Okay.
take it out of helping others and flip it into
Okay.
working with yourself.
Yeah, so if you're coaching yourself, you have to do the same thing. You have to create the next step. So I know some guys that when they first start working out, they go up 5 pounds every week. It's pretty good progression. They think it's going to be that way till they get to their goals.
Yeah,
And it's not,
No.
Putting 10 pounds on your bench when you bench 100 is great. That's 10%.
Oh yeah.
But that 10 pounds isn't the same 10 pounds from 600 to 610. Now, even though it's a smaller percentage, man, that 10 pounds is tougher.
Different world.
Yeah, you start fighting for every rep. You start fighting for every pound. And so as you begin to manifest or use up your potential, there's less and less of it there left. Now, I don't know where it ends, right? But we know that as I use some, I'm closer to wherever that is. I don't know if it's a world record. I don't know if it's one more pound and I'm done. But every time you move in the direction of your goals, there's less and less of it left. So you have to work harder and harder. It's the law of diminishing returns. You work harder and harder for smaller and smaller and smaller gains. So if you broke a world record, then somebody broke your world record, and they broke it by 2 pounds. Now you got to get those 3 pounds back. You might work for a year to get that back, but it's worth it, right? Because the rewards for those little pounds are also bigger. So even though you had to work more and more and more for less and less and less, the reward is greater and greater and greater.
Yeah.
So it kind of works out. So I tell my women who want to lose weight who might be a little bit older, I say you're 40 and you can have a 25-year-old body. That's people your age can. You can. However, you're going to pay more for it than a 25-year-old. So it's like you're in line behind 2 girls at a Coke machine. They're 25. And they go up and put 50 cents in. First one puts 50 cents in, pushes a button, gets a Coke. Second one puts 50 cents in, pushes a button, gets a Coke. You get up, put 50 cents in. It says $2 more, please. Now you have a choice. You can pay what it costs, or you can walk away mad and say, the world's not fair. It's up to you. You can have the Coke. It costs you more. So if you're a car collector and some guy in California has an old Corvette and he wants 3 times what it's worth, and you're like, screw that, okay. Or you can say, damn, how bad do I want this? I really want that car. I'm willing to pay 3 times what it's worth so that I can have it. And so it's this willingness to work harder and harder and harder for smaller and smaller and smaller gains.
I think
the law.
Yeah, I think that's very important for people to stop, rewind, and listen to that again, because it applies to everything in life. You know, if it's a marriage and you've been married for 25 years,
Harder and harder
it gets
for smaller
harder
and smaller.
for smaller gains.
Yeah.
Sports, you know, the athletes get closer to, they get older, they get closer to their prime. You know, it's harder.
Or fighting to hold on to their pride.
Yeah. I mean, Hoff in West Side versus the World documentary talked about taking 4 years to put 5 pounds on his total. You know, it's harder, you know, to, in some cases, just to get back to where you were. And after a while, our brains start to fuck with us, because
again,
you
you're
start
going right
thinking,
back to where it matters, not the body. You're going right to where I believe it matters.
yeah, because
You're
you
going
start
back to the brain.
thinking,
That's where it's at. That's where the battle is now.
yeah, do I want to do this again? You know, and when you start asking those things, you need to start asking bigger questions. Like, is it time to do something else?
And it's okay to ask the bigger
And that's
questions.
okay.
I think that's exciting, too.
And I do think that that's where a lot of lifters that I've seen through the years, myself included, end up running into identity crises
Indeed.
when the sport's over. Because
Who will you be? Who are you
Who
if
are
I
you?
take this
You
away
know,
from you?
Exactly.
If you're
you
not
know,
this lifter guy anymore, who are you?
I didn't leave on my terms. My shoulder took me. I wasn't done.
It's harsh.
All right. Now, if it wasn't for my shoulder, would I ever be done? You know, and that's a tough thing, you know,
don't
but
know.
when it is done, even regardless, let's just say you're an NFL player or a Division I football player. At some point in time, somebody's telling you you're done. And then you wake up that next morning and you're like, who am I? This was me, you know, and for me, I don't want to say it was a mistake, because I felt it was necessary. My identity was rolled into being the best power lifter I could possibly be. It was the most important thing in my life.
Well, it can be the most important thing in your life, but it's still not who you were. It's something you did. So when we ask ourselves the question, who am I? The answer is not the things that you own. Those are the possessions you have. It's not the accomplishments you've made. Those are the things you've done. It's not it's not your body even, maybe. You know, so our identity, if we choose to wrap it up, and a lot of people do, in the things we own, and we try to pass off our great car or our New Albany house or even our kids as who we are, we've missed who we are. Those are things that we've accomplished or things that we've done or things that we do or things that we have, none of which is who you are. Not one of them. So the you that is you is the guy that powerlifts. You powerlift. Powerlifting isn't you. You have done a thing. You've done an action. You've done an activity. And so when we try to identify with our accomplishments or the things that we have, and you can, and people try to pan that off on you. See my nice car, see my nice clothes, see my fit body, how thin I am, right? Is that who you are? Or are those things you have? And so the real question is, if I take all that away, then how do you answer the question, who are you? And I won't put you on the spot, but it takes a lot of work. I'm not asking you that
personally. Put me on the spot,
personally.
because listen, here,
I'm not.
I think this is a good conversation. You remember Larry Iron Smith?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, he's since passed, but I went through 2 years of therapy working with him.
No shit.
Because my
Okay.
identity was wrapped up into training. And the way that I captured and the way that I controlled my identity is I kept myself within steel walls. Notice where we're sitting now.
Indeed.
You know, So even when I was having my therapy sessions with him, it was in my old gym. And he was pointing out things like, look where you are. Why are you here? Why are we meeting here? You know, and so it was, and the reason I say let's stick on this, let's dig in it, because I've been through it. You know, I've cried the tears. I've seen the light. You know, I've seen
Dave, so have
the
I.
consequences.
Yeah,
you know,
when you
from
give
this.
up something that big, you have to.
Yes, and
There's
I know
a loss. There's a huge loss.
a lot of other lifters that feel that is that is who they are. Without that, they are nothing.
And what we have to try to convince them is that's not who you are. That's something you did. And you didn't lose you lost a thing that you did. You didn't lose you.
Yeah,
You're still you.
it's easier said.
Oh, indeed. Well, talk about easy. The reason that we come to this and the reason that we are taught this from a very early age is, again, because somebody wants to do your thinking for you. And it is very easy to say, for the corporate America or a religion or your parents or your friends or society, to say, well, you're a success if you drive a BMW. So if you want to be a success, drive a BMW. You get the BMW and you think, okay, now I'm a success. But how long does that last before you want a Mercedes, right? So what they've got us in is this trap of trying to identify with the accomplishments, the degrees, the records, the house, the kids, the family, the kids that do well in school, the kids that do well in sports, and none of that is us.
So what is?
That's okay. That's a very good question, Dave. So how do we find out who we are? If we take away the things that we have, because you're not those clothes, you'll agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not this building, you'll agree with that.
Yep.
You're not your car. I mean, I can get you to agree on all of it, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
not the records that you
Yeah.
have. You're not your personal records. You're not the things that you say and do either.
Mm-mm.
You're not your words. Your words are something that you spoke. It's another thing that you did. So I'm going to take all that away. What do you have left? And this is the big question. And
Yeah.
I can't answer it for anybody, but I know a guy that answered it pretty well. And I have bought into this. And the book is it's called Identity. And it's by Robert Fritz and another guy. And I should memorize that. I know Robert Fritz. I've been to his seminars, I've read his books, and I've been to his house. I can't remember the guy's name, but Robert Fritz, F-R-I-T-Z. He was a jazz musician and author and made films and super creative guy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's about creativity and structure. But he wrote a book with this guy about identity. And it sounds too small to be correct. And I first spit it right back out. I'm like, that's, nonsense. But I worked with it hard. And I bought in, I swallowed now. He says that your identity is simply wrapped up in this statement. Who you are is a human being who deserves to be loved. The end. Now, I know that has nothing to do with lifting, but I'm going to tell you what. Lifting has nothing to do with who you are. Working out has nothing to do with who you are. Your physical stature has nothing to do with who you are. They are symptoms, and they are choices you make. The car you drive is a choice that you make.
Yes.
And oftentimes we try to show people by how we dress and what we say and what we do who we are. We try to. We give an effort, but also we hide behind that too.
Isn't there a fine line though between love and hate?
What do you mean?
Well, the statement was, you're defined by a person who deserves to be loved. So if there's a fine line between love and hate, could it be said?
Sure.
I don't want to go there.
No, I think it can. Because love and hate are just a continuum of the same thing. They're just different ends of it, right? Any continuum is the same line. It's just where you are on the line. Big, small, any opposite.
Gotcha.
It's the same line. You're just moving towards one side of it, right?
Yes. So if you hate yourself, in essence, you're on the same line.
Could be,
be able to love yourself.
Absolutely,
Because
sure.
it's the same continuum. It's just
Same
where you
continuum.
sit.
You just need to move you don't need to do anything. You can hate yourself all you want.
Yeah.
And people do.
Yeah.
They eke out an identity out of trying to do that, right? They try to
Yes.
identify that.
Well, that's why I'm throwing it out there. I know
Sure.
people that fit that bill.
Oh, of course, sure.
You know, and if
Victims.
it's just a matter of sliding little bits.
So he's chosen to be ultra positive again. And so that's why I think he phrased it that way. But the idea is you exist as a thing. Now, I'm not sure what that thing is. Defining stuff is hard, right? So defining what love is hard, but
Yeah.
you can tell me what you love
Yes.
easily.
Yes.
But you can tell me what makes you happy, but you may not be able to tell me what happiness is.
True.
So this gets back to this idea that we don't know how much, we think we know how things work. We're pretty sure that we know how things work. So do you know how a toilet works, Dave?
Pretty much.
Nope, you don't. I'm sure you don't. Do you know how your car works? Do you know how your phone works? Do you know how microwave towers work and satellite communications work? That's how your phone works. So if you can tell me that, you know how your phone works.
Mhm.
You know how to use your phone. You know how to use your car. You know how to use your toilet really well. So we're good at using things. So when I talk about the spiritual dimension and things like that, I'm not sure if I can tell you what the spirit is. That drive, body, mind, and then drive. Ego, soul, self, heart. But I know how to use it. And that's better than knowing what it is. I know how to love somebody. And that's better than knowing what love is. So I'm curious about those things. And I looked up how to use the toilet. When this was put to me, I'm like, I think, the water, and if we went through it, you'd be surprised. Because you'd think the water on the top pushes the water down, or something sucks it out. None of that happens. Because if the water comes from the tank and goes into the bowl, it comes right out onto your floor, all the shit in the water. What pulls it down the pipe? And it's a remarkably simple invention, but if you don't take time to ask yourself, how does this work? You don't need to know. You need to know how to work it so you don't screw it up.
Yeah.
You need to know how to work your car. You don't know how internal combustion engine works, or fuel injection, or transmission, or carburetor. You may not know what any of those things are, but you can drive your car. You know how a gas pump works? Did you get gas recently? How does a gas pump get the gas out of the ground into your car? Now, you think you know how a gas pump works because you know how to work one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't. We know how very little works. And it's fun to learn stuff about that. But what's important is, can we work it? Can we work it? So I'm not sure if I can tell you what an identity is, or what love is, but I think I can tell you how to work one, right? And that's, if I had to choose of one or the other. Now, we can do both, right? We can learn how a toilet works, and we can be very good at using it. But if I had to choose just one, I'd choose how to work stuff. I'd choose something that's useful, gets me through the day. Maybe I don't know what love is, but if I'm good at it, people will tell me if I'm good at it or not. If I'm a good communicator, people will tell me. Now, how does communication work? Is it your fault that I said 6 o'clock and you heard 7? Or did I misspeak and say 7 and think I said 6? Well, either could be true. If you and me want to argue about that, so you said 6. No, I said 7. You said 6. No, and that just goes forever. If we just agree, well, hey, maybe I misspoke, maybe you misheard. Does it matter? We miscommunicated. Let's get our asses going because it's 6, so we got to get going. Right? That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Right? Than finding out how it actually worked between us, right?
Yeah.
So I think those things are useful, and I'm big on useful things. I think things that I'm about to say that things that are useful are more important than things that are true. I'm about to say that I believe things that are useful are more valuable than things that are true. So I could say, credo veritas, I believe what is true. Or I could say, credo utilensis, I believe what's useful. If I had to choose between one, do I want the truth, or do I want something I can use? And religions, wars, President Bush found it very useful to create an idea that there were weapons of mass destruction. It was a very useful thing, incredibly useful. We're still over there, but it wasn't true. So there's an example of how something can be useful but not be true. It was very useful for his purposes. And so, you know, in more non-nefarious terms, if I can find something that helps me through the day, like a rock with 700 written on it, or chiropractic, or acupuncture, or massage, or crystal healing, okay, I'm going to concede. If you can use that, if you can show me how you use it, you can have it. I don't think it's true, but is it useful? Can you use it?
At the same time,
Right.
a lot of those things you experimented with,
Indeed.
you know, as did I, you know, all the way to the crystals,
Yeah.
to, you know,
Sure.
anything.
I'll turn over any rock if I
If it's
can
going to
use
make me
it.
stronger, you know,
Yeah,
I'm going
right.
to try.
Absolutely.
What could be some of the useful things that the lifters today are missing?
Okay, that's a very easy place to start.
Yeah,
Okay,
very easy.
very easy. So I can get every coach on the planet to give me a percentage breakdown between how much of the game, coach, is physical and how much of the game is mental. And they'll give me a breakdown. And it's never 100% physical. There's no mental aspect at all. It's always something like 50-50 is a good one, but it might be, you know, 75-25 or 80-20 in favor of mental. And then I'll say, okay, coach, the next question would be, how many hours a week do you spend with your athletes doing mental training? And how much physical training do you do? And the answer is always 0. They do nothing. Nothing for actual training of the mind when they just admitted at worst that it's 50-50. They just told me how important. And some of them will say like 70-80% mental. And I'm like, well, what are you doing then? You're wasting your time on the field. Get in these kids' head. What are you doing to do that? The answer is 0. They have no clue, right? So I actually would agree with some of the higher estimates of how much is mental. So a good place to start is to admit that we're not doing nearly enough as coaches or as personal athletes training ourselves to work on this. So ask yourself, how much do I think whatever I do is mental and how much of it is physical? And whatever that is, balance your training out. So a good place to start is some breathing and or meditation techniques. And there's dozens of good ones. And I don't know if there's any bad ones. But a very easy meditation. So meditation is not a panacea. Meditation is like a drink of water. You're thirsty, you drink a little bit, and you feel better. But then you get thirsty again. And that's what meditation's like. You're all stressed out, you're tense, you need to relax and recover. And so you do some meditation and you calm down. It's not like you're done. You're going to get tense and upset again, and, you know, so then you do more meditation, take another drink. And I have some personal favorites, but again, since we're talking about the mental side of things, everybody is different. I'm going to say that now. So a good place to start would be like a Tibetan style of meditation where you just sit and do nothing. You shut down. Shut your body down. You don't move a muscle. Just breathe. You can concentrate on just the breathing. In, out, 5 minutes. Start with 5. You can work your way up to an hour later. 15 is not a bad place to be for the rest of your life. 15 minutes a day of just not being plugged into the world, being plugged into just yourself.
Now, when they're doing that and their mind flies,
Okay.
what should they do?
So the Tibetans have an answer for this. So you're concentrating on your breathing, and a thought bubbles up
Yes.
from your subconscious. I got to get milk today. They say, don't add to it. Because what we do is we take a thought and we add another thought to that. I got to get milk today. While I'm there, I should stop and get some other stuff too. And you start to think about it. Well, no, I'm not supposed to be thinking about that. Well, what am I supposed to be thinking about? Nothing. And you just start having this conversation again. So what the Tibetans say with this style of meditation is just breathe, and when a thought pops in, don't add another thought to it. Observe it and let it go. It won't stay in there forever.
Mm-hmm.
It won't. Just go back to thinking nothing. And you may have most of your meditation at first may be spent thinking thoughts and trying to get to those little tiny spaces between thoughts.
True.
But they're always there. And so those get longer and longer and longer if you don't build on a thought. If you just let it go. And you can't judge. They're big on this. You can't say, oh, damn it, I'm not supposed to be thinking about anything. I just had a thought about milk. I got to think about nothing. Now you're having this conversation. That's four thoughts in a row about not thinking about something. Just observe it. I just thought about milk. I just thought about my feet. I just thought about that sound from the fan. So you just see them and you let them go. And you can get pretty quiet doing that. And that quietness is a rest. God, finally a rest for my mind. And your body's resting because you're sitting still. But your body rests when you sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not about physical rest. It's about shutting down your involvement with everything and giving yourself a rest. The mind never shuts off, because if it did, we'd quit breathing and we'd quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it never shuts off even when you're not conscious. So if I knock you out, your mind is still working. I can still see the brain waves.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you go to sleep, take a nap, still see the brain waves. They're not the same, but it never quits. Your heart never quits beating. It's been beating since you were conceived.
Mm-hmm.
It's never stopped. And all this time. So we think when we go to sleep, we're resting. Well, to some degree that's true. But if you really want to rest your mind, take some time, sit, do nothing. Just be. What would it be if I didn't have to do anything? Like if I didn't even have to sit, or if I didn't even have to breathe. But I'm just going to do as little as possible, and I'm going to be as much as possible. I'm going to be instead of do. You're always thinking about what we got to do. Thinking is something we do. What if you stopped thinking? What if you just be? What if you just existed and that was all you had to do? That can be very freeing and very renewing. So you talk about recovery. This is where I start.
Mm-hmm.
Now, food is important, right? But this makes a big difference. So some practice with breathing techniques. So there's another breathing technique I like. It's 3 breaths a minute. So a 10-second inhalation followed by a 10-second exhalation. That'll end up in 3 breaths a minute. See if you can do that for 3 minutes. So it's 10 seconds in. 1, 2, 3, etc. It's slow, but it can be done. And it calms you down. Just counting those seconds off and controlling your breath. It can be done. It settles you down. And if you're aware, you notice it right away. If you're not so aware, it takes a minute to notice it. You got to do it for a while before you notice it. But I don't know anybody that said that did nothing for me. 0.
Mm-hmm.
0. If they try it, they feel something. Now they may want to continue, they may not. But there's all kinds of techniques that might work. One kind of meditation is visualization. Seeing the goal clearly. Another kind of meditation is, trying to solve a problem. Another kind of.
Let's go with the visualization a little deeper, because
Sure.
I have a lot of experience with that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I try to help people with this, it's as you talked about with just resting your mind, the thoughts that come in. With the visualization, when you first start the visualization, you're going to see some weird ass shit.
Yeah.
And you visualize a bench press, all of a sudden you're twirling it and it goes flying up in the air on fire.
Pizza wheels on
it's got all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
shit. So I guess it's just more of, I wanted to make the statement that if it's to me, it was a very extremely valuable tool. I was taught when I was in high school, it was actually part of a flotation tank greater experience.
Oh, like a deprivation
Yes.
chamber.
So, and I was taught with the candle,
Wow.
focus on the
Good
candle
stuff.
till the
Yeah.
candle goes,
Candle
and
flame.
put yourself in a deep state, and then begin the visualization. And it took weeks before things could be black and white, and then more weeks before things could be vivid color, and then I could actually see and do what I wanted to do. But for me, it was a 3-month process before I could actually see what I wanted to see. Where I think some people are under the misconception that they're going to close their eyes to visualize what they want to see, and it's going to be like a movie screen in front of their face. And it's not, so they say, I can't do this. Would you agree with that?
I would completely disagree.
You disagree? Okay.
So I tell people to start with daydreaming.
Mhm.
Just daydream about your, everybody knows how to do that. We do it automatically. Start with daydreaming, People daydream about their vacation.
Yeah.
They daydream about their new car or their kid. They daydream.
Yeah.
So we know how to do that. So
Yeah.
you already know how to do it,
Okay.
right? Everybody knows how to do it. So you start with that, and that's not very. You could say, well, I want to, I'm going to go to Florida. And I want to do well in this meet. Well, just daydream about it. Daydream about the trip. Daydream about getting there. Daydream about after it, how you're going to feel afterwards, right? Just daydream, because that doesn't sound like it's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
If I have to visualize something, then I got to be like, okay, blank slate. Where do I go from here? So you practice just seeing whatever you see. Have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Don't see anything bad. There are a couple of things that the visualizing community has decided upon that are absolutely consistent. One, nothing negative. You cannot see anything negative. If you do, you got to start over. Go back to the beginning. And so you can't take a golf swing and visualize your hips and visualize your club coming up and do something wrong and then just go, oh, that was wrong, I'm going to continue. No, go back to the beginning. You got to go from beginning to end. No mistakes, nothing negative. No, and there's different ways to get rid of negative thoughts. One that I don't know why this stuck with me, but I would put it in a box, close the box, and send the box over Niagara Falls, because I've been to Niagara Falls. So I'd watch it go over the falls. It was gone. And that sounds silly, right? But guess what? Your subconscious is a little kid. It's not this sophisticated consciousness that we operate with. And I believe, by the way, it's the bigger part of us. I believe the small part is our consciousness. And the big part is our subconscious. I gave you some reasons for that. Just the fact that it keeps you alive, and thousands upon thousands of physiological processes, like your blood sugar, like your temperature, like your membrane potentials of sodium and potassium, 24/7, like your heart. I mean, it's all subconscious. It does a big job all at the same time. I'd like you to juggle and tell me what you did on your vacation at the same time, right? Just two things tough for us consciously, right? So I think the subconscious is really, really powerful, but it's a little kid. It can't even tell the difference between reality and fantasy. It has no way to. Your subconscious is locked in your brain. It's locked in a box with no light. That's a skull that there's no light inside your brain. You make that up. No light gets in there. No color gets in there. No sound gets in there. Nothing gets in there. You got to take the stimulus that you get from your body, and then you got to recreate a model of the outside world. And the subconscious can't tell if that model is accurate or not. If you've ever hit your head on something, your model wasn't right. You thought the car door was here, and it was actually here, and bonk, there you go. So your model was wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the subconscious doesn't know that if you're imagining something vividly enough that it seems real to it, or if it is real. And that's why it has to be correct. It has to be as detailed. So the second thing is, first of all, no negative. Second thing, when you visualize, it has to be as detailed as you can make it. So everything you can remember, from the knurling on the bar to the sound that the plates make, to the smells. So I create rituals to trigger the subconscious. And some of them are, and apparently, I've read that smell is a huge memory stimulus. I don't know why that is, but it is. It comes from the reptilian brain, so it's old. And I don't have that greatest sense of smell. So, but what I would do when I was training, and what I teach competitors to do now, is to create a competition or workout ritual. Music maybe, food maybe, meditation maybe, clothing maybe, but include some smells. Buy some essential oils, or even, I had a liniment that I used on my elbows, and that was the smell. And I had a drink that I drank, an energy drink of the day, and that smell and that taste. And those things happened only prior to. I didn't do them during the week, or those things were reserved for that thing. So when my actual system went into gear, I had the smells, the sights, the sounds, the touches, anything I could get to make it, consistent, so that by the time I got to when I had to put out, the body was ready. Oh, when I smell that, I know what's coming. When I hear that, I know what's happening. When he puts this on, I know. It's like your dog, Your dog sees you put your shoes on, and the dog gets, like, I heard this joke. They said the dog gets about 20% excited. Oh, he's getting to put his shoes on, but he's not going to get too excited because he's put his shoes on before and left the house without them. But then when he gets the leash, man, the dog goes nuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what your body does too, or that's what your subconscious can do for you. And sometimes I felt like crap, and I go through the ritual, the sights, the smells, the sounds, and by the time I get to where I have to do it, I'm okay. I didn't think it was going to go well, but it did. Well, I thought about that a lot, and I think that triggering mechanism, that prepping mechanism. So, in your visualization, the smells, the sounds, the sights, the hearing, the feel, baby powder, chalk, all of those things. You want to visualize all of them, and as many steps as you can prior to. So imagining clearly stepping up and chalking your hands, or wrapping your wrists, or all of it. So they're very clear on that, about how the more detailed it is, the more your subconscious just thinks you did it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like free practice without the wear and tear physically, but all the wear and tear mentally. So again, you have to have something to recover that too. But so you can lift 700 pounds 100 times a week in your mind. And if it's clear enough, the subconscious doesn't know that you didn't actually do it. So I won over and over and over again before I showed up to the meet, because I saw myself win. I saw myself push the weight up. I saw the victory experience over and over and over and over. And when we did it, we, meaning me and my subconscious, it was just another day. I'd done this before.
You made an interesting statement of, again, you have to be able to recover from that.
The
Can
mental
you expand
stress
on that?
So it takes a lot of energy. One of the most expensive organs in the body, if not the most expensive, is the brain. Thinking is hard. Like I told you about Darwin. He's laying there, he's doing nothing. His kids think he's sleeping. He's busting his ass thinking. Thinking is hard. That's why people don't want to do it, and they're fully willing to let somebody else do it for you. Tell me what I should buy. Tell me what I should wear.
Mm-hmm.
Influencers on the internet.
Yeah.
Here's what you should buy. Here's what you should wear. Thank God you came along, because I didn't want to have to choose for myself. And I had to think about it, right? So thinking in general is hard, right? And so creating these images accurately, well, from start to finish with no mistakes. Like, you can't see that golf shot go into the lake. You got to see it make it. And if just by accident one of those, falls into the lake, you just practiced the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And your subconscious doesn't know if you actually did that and screwed up or not. And that may go into the memory. Oh, I just screwed up. So you got to be disciplined to do your visualization properly and well, and really good at it. And so you've got all these things to visualize. So I created one method is to tape recorders. In my day, we had a tape recorder. And so I sat down and very diligently talked into the tape recorder of everything I'm going to do before I make the lift. That ended up to be an hour. So if you, and I'm talking to myself,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to tie your shoe. Now you're going to tie the other shoe. Now you're going to chalk your hands. Now you're going to lay down on the bench. Now you're going to set your shoulders.
Mhm.
Now you're going to, very calmly, but it was my own voice talking to myself. And I would play it back over and over and over, dozens of times a week. And I could just sit there and listen. And as soon as I said, you're going to lay down on the bench, I visualized that. Then I gave myself some time to. And then now you're going to reach up for the bar with your right hand and grab hold. And you feel the knurling. And you place your fingers where they go on the rings. And you feel the chalk. And you feel the knurling. And you twist it a few times. And then you take your left hand. I mean, very detailed.
Yeah.
And that's expensive. So one way that makes it easier is you don't conjure it up every time. You put it on tape, or you can use your phone now. You record it and then you listen to it. And you can just sit there and listen. So I did it on my walks a lot of times. Put my headphones on, go for a walk. I'm losing weight, but I'm hearing myself win.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way it's going to happen. And at that point, I'd done it enough that I know how it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's going to feel like. So I give myself cues. What it's going to smell like, what it's going to look like. All of it, as much as you can. And that's mentally taxing. So mental work is hard. And I think that's one reason why we don't think kids can do it. Or I don't know why we haven't exploited that side of sport yet, or life. But for whatever reason, it's a great place
Yeah.
to beat people.
Yeah. I still want to fall back on how do you recover from it then?
Okay, so there's where the meditation might be helpful,
Gotcha.
or the deep breathing,
Yeah.
or the yoga, or the stretching, or
I gotcha.
any of those,
Any restoration method.
any restoration, massage.
Yes.
If it's not too brutal. I mean, I don't understand this belief that if it hurts, it's good for me. I've seen people come with bruises and tell me how good the massage was. And that's a terrible massage. They go way too hard. They actually cause trauma because that blood should still be in your veins, and now it's in your tissue. That's too much. So a restorative type of massage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with deep. I love cross fiber massage.
Yeah.
That's my thing. But if it's too violent, it's not relaxing. And I don't know how helpful it is. Now, if you think it's helpful, maybe it is. I have guys swear by it.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
got bruises all over. I'm like, okay, you go ahead and keep doing that. I don't think that's true, But I don't think it should be. I think it should be relaxing. It should release things. You should feel a release, because you can't relax if somebody's digging in and you tense up. You do the exact opposite of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And plus the training is trauma.
It's
if you're training
absolutely trauma.
hard, it's big trauma.
It's violent. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to recover from. So in the beginning, it's easy to recover from. You could bench 3 times a week. At the end of my career, David, I was benching every 10 days. 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I did pretty well 5 days in between, and then I did, even when I got stronger, I had to go to 7 days, and that lasted for a couple years. I ended at 10 days. So I had 3 bench workouts every month. So those bench workouts had to be on. I couldn't miss.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't screw around. They were incredibly important. You miss one, that means you get 2.
Yeah.
You screw one bench workout, if you get 3 a month and you screw one of them up, that leaves you with 2. How are you going to get ready with 2? Well, you can get ready. And you can't get ready any faster because you can't recover.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 10 days when I was over 700.
Yeah.
So recuperative methods of all sorts, I think, are an untapped but rich place to spend some time. This has all been tapped out.
Yeah.
Bench and squat and deadlift and power cleans. We know how to do that. We're very good at it, in fact. What we're not so good at is the other stuff.
Yeah.
The recovery, the visualization, etc., etc. Building confidence,
Yeah.
building willpower. So we talked about what separates the 10,000-hour people away is the will to do 10 hours a day for 4 years. That's what separates people out. Who has that? Well, how do I build that then? How do I build that? And people know. It's not like this is unknown. It is known, but man, nobody seems to know what.
Well,
what's
they
going on.
want the easier way.
Well, yeah, of course. We've been taught that we should do the highest value in America that I see is saving time and money. Everything's geared towards that. You know, the electric toaster was geared towards that. My button on my car that rolls my window down was geared. All those inventions, everything seems to be now pushing to do somehow save me money or time or effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll put 3 of them in there: time, money, or effort, right? And those are the things we value most. Why is that? How did that happen? And I bought into it. You know, I was born in '65, so I grew up in front of the television.
Well, I'll
First
put you on the
generation.
spot.
Yeah.
What should they be?
What should our
Well, if
Inventions?
if the values,
what should we be valuing?
yes, is
Well, everyone
time.
has their own. I have
Yeah.
some pretty good ideas of what I value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And what I think that we would do better if we valued. Right.
Yeah.
But that's like asking somebody what makes them happy.
Exactly.
So, but I don't value things that save time. Because you can't really save time. You can save money in a bank, and it'll be there when you go to get it. Everybody gets. I say all these things. I hear myself repeating things that I've been saying to my clients all week long and all month long and all last month and all. I mean, I say this all the time. Everybody gets 24 usable hours. You get 24 choices of what you're going to do. And that's it. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care where you live. We all get the same every day. 24 choices. No more, no less. So you choose what you value. I believe the most valuable thing is our time. So to answer your question,
Yeah.
time. Because money, it's nice, it's useful, right? But it's not what I value most. You know, I spend my money, I can make more. I spend my time today. I'm here with you for this hour.
Yeah.
It's gone forever. I can't get another one. And I can't save them up. So that's really valuable to me, time.
Yes.
Where somebody puts their time will tell you what they care about. Wherever their time is, that's what they care about. Now, they'll tell you something else. They'll say, well, I really care about this. But you're not spending any time there. Your actions belie what you are telling me. Our time is I think that our time is our most valuable thing that we have. And so where we choose to deliver that time, I think matters. I think that matters. And, you know, because you only get 24. And you don't get any more. And you don't get any less. And you don't know if you get 24 tomorrow. You and I may both be in a horrible car accident with each other on our way home.
Yeah.
And we both die. And we don't have 24 tomorrow. So we got 24 today. What did we do with them?
Yeah.
How many of the 24 at the end of the day can you say, I was glad that I spent these hours there? And how many do you go, well, I had to spend these hours there, but I got nothing out of it, but I had to. Really? You had to? You had to? We don't have to do anything. We choose to do everything. You tell me one thing we have to do. What's necessary, David? What's
Breathing.
necessary? No, David, you're wrong, because if you stop breathing, all of this will go on. You're not necessary. I'm not necessary.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
I can do that with everything, right?
Yep.
So if you say what is necessary and you add an if to it. So it's necessary to breathe if I want to stay alive. But you've added something. There's nothing that's inherently necessary but in and of itself. It's necessary. I have to save my money if I want to buy a house. You don't have to buy a house. I have to go to school if I want to get a good job. You don't have to have a good job. right? So if you put the if in, then I understand why it's necessary, because it is necessary to do. If I want to get stronger, I have to work hard. Okay, yeah, but you don't have to get stronger. You're not necessary. We're not necessary, right? So everything is a choice. When you look at it this way, when you say, I don't have to do anything, I am choosing to do everything. I'm choosing what I'm doing. That, number one, gives you autonomy, and it's honest. So I had to go to work today, I had to work overtime, I had to stay, I had to. Now you chose to. You don't have to. So you don't have to have that job. You don't have to have that job. You could have another job. You could. So there's all these. So this is beautiful because it puts your whole life in more of a choice instead of a should.
Yes.
And I think that's powerful. If you can grasp that, yeah, I still will choose to do some things that are unsavory. I will clean out my cat's litter box. I will. But I don't have to. Some people don't. Right? Yeah. But I will, right? So at the end of the day, if you can say that out of these 24, at least some of them, at least one of them, even if just one, is one of the things that you find really valuable, that's pretty good. And the more hours you can spend of your life doing things that you value. I like doing crossword puzzles. I really enjoy it. I choose to do it. I like doing it. I do 2 or 3 a day if I can. If they're harder, I do half of one a day. But I like that. That's something I like. You may not, but it's valuable to me. Every morning I start my day off with the crossword while I'm eating breakfast. I do as much as I can. Whenever I can steal away, I try to get back to it. I like smoking cigars. Some people don't, right? Some people I used to like playing frisbee golf. Some people don't like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
I can't understand why anyone in the world wouldn't spend every free hour they have doing that. But it's the second favorite thing that I had to do, right? It's the second favorite thing. Just frisbee golf, right? But we choose what we value, and we spend time on it. If you have something that you think you value, or you aver that you value, and you're not spending any time on it, I'm going to question whether it's valuable or not to you. And I think you should too, right? Where your time is going. And another good place to see what you value is where your money's going. What are you spending money on? You know? If you're spending money on your house, but you value your kids, well, wait a minute. Where's all your money going, right? If you value education, but you're spending all your money on clothes, all right. So I think there's ways that we can self-regulate what's valuable to us, right? And one of the things that might be valuable to look at and to decide maybe if it's valuable to you or not is your own self-improvement, right? So not just weights and strength and accomplishments, but improving yourself as a human being, right? So if our identity is being a human being, then if that's true, so maybe it's not true, but if it is true, wouldn't it behoove us to do well, to be better human beings, and to develop ourselves as human beings, and to be moving in some direction as a human being? So a good question might be to ask ourselves, what have I done? How many hours have I put in of my 24 a day I get? And how much money and energy and resources have I put into developing myself as a better human being? And what would that look like? What do I think being a better human being means? Have I done anything at all? Anything to move in that direction? Or am I just bumping my way through life reacting? So maybe a good place and I think that the weights are a good place. The gym, physical exertion, is a good place to start tapping into these things. I try to put my clients through a mental, physical, and spiritual workout. I try to combine them, because I do when I work out. Didn't always, but I do now. I try to engage all 3 facets of myself as a human when I do my workout, and when I do everything else, as much as I can. Now, some things are very cerebral, and we sit and talk. And I can't involve my body too much.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned, right, the nonverbal things, body language, right? So I can involve it, and I have been, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but how much of my spirit have I put into this? Now, I'll tell you that I've tried. I've taken it. I've given the knowledge that I have and the memories that I have, but I've also tried to put some sort of that thing I can't describe to you, but I know how to use it, right, into this discussion, and to as many things as I can. And when I feel that I'm not operating as a full human being, body, mind, and spirit, I look around and say, what can I do right now to engage all three more? So if I'm too physical or too mental, I don't know that I've ever been too spiritual, maybe emotional, maybe, but I try to balance those things out, and so I get a little bit of each or a lot of each, and intertwine them into being whole. So I don't like to think of them as separate. I like to think of things as a unit. A whole person would be all of those facets of a person. So there you have that.
So that becomes interesting then as a client that you're working with, because we talked about the sliding scale of demographic that I don't know who you train. So I'm making an
Same
assumption.
people you do. I have some great athletes right now.
I mean,
so
I'm making
that's
an
good.
assumption here.
But I have a couple elderly.
Yeah, so you got elderly, you
Over
got
65.
everybody across the scale.
Yeah.
So, and you're trying to combine those three facets, which means you have to essentially find a way to discover each one of their own spirits to be able to do that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, David.
Yeah, I'll keep
Cover.
going. I'll keep going.
Cover, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Is the chat running?
Yeah, the chat's running.
All right. So I guess what I can do is, while he's taking a bathroom break, anybody have any questions that they want me to ask him that you guys can jot down?
There was a handful that have been in there so far.
Okay.
Or any for Dave while JM's in the bathroom. Anybody still here?
Because we are still live, so either they all took off. And this is what happens with live shit. People have
First
to
one
take-
just came in. I don't know if you saw that, Dave.
Yeah. I can't see it out here at
It
all.
says, Dave, how do you stay so sexy?
How do I? That's easy, because I'm not.
Okay. Ask him about his bulking system. It's pretty well known and easy to research, but we would all love to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
That was at the very beginning of the podcast, guys.
Well,
So,
he didn't talk about how he gained the weight so much, did he?
Pretty much the same thing. Just
Okay.
adding the calories, over a period of time.
I would be curious to hear what foods he was eating, though. And
Doesn't matter.
okay.
Doesn't matter. It all comes down to a calorie per bite. This way he explained it to me.
Okay, yeah.
So when you're in a calorie surplus, the actual foods, as he noted earlier, really don't matter, because you're not going to be running into any type of nutritional deficiencies, because you're going to be in a calorie surplus. Would
makes
trying to eat cleaner foods be better? I think everybody would agree with that. But it's just a matter of the end goal of gaining the weight. And if I was to apply the philosophy that he spoke about on losing weight, his philosophy on gaining weight would probably be the same, to do it as quickly as possible.
That makes sense. What was JM like to train with? Was he this cerebral?
Yes. Very methodical and cerebral. Not one that would be, hitting ammonia cap, screaming, hitting his head against the bar, and doing that kind of stuff. So he was different from that perspective.
How did JM's Zen-like personality get on with Louis? Is a question that just came in.
Louis probably just thought he was weird. I mean, Louis doesn't. The only thing Louis ever judged anybody on was their strength. That was it. He never judged anybody really as a person. It was, what's he lift? And he could bench a fucking lot. And, you know,
What was your experience like there, JM, at Westside?
Dave's right. The only thing that could impress Louis,
A little closer,
or that he
closer
cared-
to the mic, sorry.
the only thing that that Louis was concerned with was
strength.
strength. He was fascinated by it his whole life. I mean, I'm sure he still is. I mean, he's fairly, I don't know how, I don't want to use the term unidimensional, but it certainly was the overwhelming facet of his life. He was
everything.
so into just pure strength that that's what mattered to him. He chose that. He values that a lot.
Yeah.
And
I can say, just from a discussional standpoint, of there was one time these guys, I think it was on a Saturday or Sunday, because the bench day kind of moved back and forth.
And I
over
came
a
to
couple
some
of
Sunday
years.
workouts.
Yeah.
I tried it. I gave it my
Yeah,
best
you
shot.
guys had so much freaking band tension on the bar before the plates were even on there that I couldn't even get it out of the rack, and kind of walked away just feeling awful. It's like, this is crazy. But it did take me a while to realize the way that the bands worked is when you put more weight on the bar, it made the bands feel a little bit easier
Some stability.
because it created the stability.
Yeah.
We're taking that, it was like you know how George was with the bands. It might have been 3 freaking big, giant, super blue bands.
I gravitated towards the chains.
Yeah, the chains
were mine.
You know, a lot of people did have questions in regards to, and we spoke about this years ago in the gym, is you were not a fan of speed work.
There's a reason for that, though.
And what you told me at the time was you were fast enough.
Well, that may have been my answer then.
Yeah.
But let's give this some thought.
Yeah.
And see where we go.
Okay.
How many of us have lifted a maximal? Because the sport is about maximal lifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to know how much you can lift 20 reps. That might be impressive to talk about, but it's not part of the sport. 1 rep. Can you lift it? How fast can you lift it is not. So it's not a power question. It's just a question of force. You know, the weight times the distance. Can you move it? And let's think through how many maximal lifts we've ever seen that moved any faster than a snail's pace. So how many lifts can you picture right now that just went up incredibly fast? The answer is 0. I'll just go ahead and tell you the answer, just in case anybody's out there thinking it through. The answer is none. None. So the law of sports specificity says that you get better at what you practice. So practicing moving weights very, very fast doesn't have much to do with your single rep max. It just doesn't pan out. It doesn't follow the law. The law of sports specificity says I should practice moving this the way I'm going to move it when I perform it. So that was my thinking, or at least it became my thinking. It's my understanding of it at this point. And I did try the speed work. Louis just kept, telling me to it.
Force mass times acceleration?
Yeah, it is. But how many? So that's true.
Yes.
Right? So that's how much force you need. It's not to accelerate 100 pounds.
Yes.
If you want to accelerate it faster, you need more and more and more force. That's true. But the sport isn't about how fast you get it up. We could make a sport like that. They do shooting sports where they look at how many bullets you can put on a target in how many seconds and all that. So we have measurement. We have instruments that will measure how fast you lift something.
Yeah.
That hasn't made its way into powerlifting yet. So I'll remind you that how many times can you think of a single rep max, or how many single rep maxes did you lift at the speed that you're training at?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to spend I kind of worry that people are spending. It's an opportunity cost. Spending a lot of time with speed work is when you could be spending a lot of time with strength work. And so since it's a strength sport and not a speed sport, this isn't Olympic lifting, where that matters, because you have to have time to get under the bar, to fall down and then stand back up with it. They're called the quick lifts for a reason, you know? Speed is important. They don't ask you how fast your squat comes up. If you make it, you make it. In fact, when I was competing, I don't know how the rules are now, but if you stopped but didn't regress, you could start up again.
Yes.
You could even come to a standstill. If you can find a way to build momentum enough to get it started again, that counts.
As long as it didn't lower.
Yeah. So you can't get any slower than stopping. That's as slow as it gets. And a lot of your biggest lifts might come almost to a stop. So I need skill and central nervous system drive with that speed, because that's how I'm going to win. I'm not going to be moving the weight, quickly at all. Nothing close to quickly. Maybe my opener, but even then, it's not as fast as a lot of the speed training has gotten to. And so I don't. For that reason, I think you're training time and energy and the thing you have to recover from. So if you do speed work, okay, good, but you have to recover from that. And I don't know how much that helps you, because you're not going to lift that way.
Couldn't that be said that submaximal loading in the 70% range is generally going to move faster than maximal loading in the 90s?
Anything under so you're right. You've got the physics right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the physics. So anything under maximal will move a little faster and a little faster and a little faster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I could recover from maximal training all the time, that's all I would do.
Which nobody can.
There's the rub. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to choose triples. So I did a lot of good work with triples.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of good work with near max lifts. So I would put on a weight, again, because I don't want to fail, and I want to practice moving the weight at the speed it's going to move. So I got to get enough on that I know I can make it, but not a true max. And I would do 3 of those almost every workout. Near max, singles. And then do my triples, if I was at that stage.
So outside of accessory work, just staying with specific bench training,
Okay.
how low would you lower, or how low would you let the intensity, I always have to define expression of max.
So I didn't have to use percentages because I had numbers.
Yes.
So I had a number. If I was doing triples and I was doing 535 for triples, for 6 sets of triples, then I knew I had to do, and so my method was to try to do 36 reps. And so if you're doing a 6-rep max, right, you can get the first set. So 535 for 6 on the first. You might get 6 on the second set. You might not. You might get 5. So you write that down. Then the third set you might get 5 again, but maybe 4. And you write that down. And then 4, and then 4, and then 3, and then 3, and you're done, right? So next week, you already know before you leave what your goals are for next week. You got 6 on the first, 5 on the second, 5 on the third, 4 on the fourth, 4 on the fifth, 3 on the sixth. So what are your goals for next week? You already know before you packed up and left. You got to beat those numbers. So I used the numbers, and when I got to 36, that was no longer my 6-rep max, because I'm doing 6 sets with it.
So was this block oriented or more block periodized?
I'm not familiar with the term block.
All right, well, block
so you
is
have to
more
fill me in on that.
Sticking with one strength attribute for a certain period of time. So 4 weeks.
I'm sticking with nothing.
Okay.
I'm constantly moving. I do not believe in plateaus. If you believe in plateaus, you're going to get one.
Yeah.
You'll have yourself one.
So the volume was same.
Set. No, the weight was set.
The weight was set.
Right. So you're always shooting for either 6 sets of 6, or if you're closer to a meet, 6 sets of 3.
Okay.
Or even less than that, even closer to a meet. But let's just say 6 sets of 6, and
But
then
if
as
you
you
don't
taper,
get the number of reps per set,
You don't
does
go
that
down.
add more sets or just
no,
not get?
no. You're always getting you get 6 chances,
Gotcha.
and you should be able to get your first one.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's your 6-rep max. So you get 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you build strength, you get more and more and more of the reps. So 36 is a perfect workout. You go up 5 pounds next time. So let's say you get 27. In any combination at all. You come in next week and your goal is to get 28 or better. If you just get one more rep in that group, you have improved. If you get 2, good for you. If you get more, fine. But you can't move up your next 5 pounds until you get all 36.
Gotcha.
So if you come in and go 666, 665, you got to come back next week with the same weight. You got to get that 6th rep. When you get to 6th rep, you are allowed to move up 5 pounds. So not only do you know what your goals are for the next week, you know exactly when to change the weight. You know exactly how much. And the truth is, Dave, I took some, I didn't always go up by 2.5, or I didn't always go up by 5. Because I took 2.5 pound plates and I drilled holes in them until they weighed 1 pound each.
So there was always some progression.
So I could go up by 1 pound. And
Yeah.
I put it on one side of the bar.
Yeah.
I go up 1 pound.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to make any difference.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
So, but the idea is there is constant progression.
Mm-hmm.
If you allow or accept that you can stay the same, I would ask you this. Do you expect to make progress this year? Pretty much everybody would say, yeah, I'm going to move my dead up. I'm going to move my bench up. I'm going to move my squat up in a year. Okay, so whatever progress you think you're going to make, let's say it's 50 pounds. That means you got to go up a pound a week. If you don't, you got 2 pounds to go the next week.
Oh, yeah. And
So
that's
if
a
you think,
big-
hey, I'm going to move up 10 pounds this year, then every week, what do you have to go up? Well, you divide the year, the training year, and that's the progress you need to show for that week. Because 1 week of 0 progress times 1 billion years and weeks is still 0 progress.
Yeah.
There has to be constant progress of some sort, either a rep or a little bit of weight. Something has to keep changing. Now, there are events like sicknesses and off days, and that happens. And so if it does, you have to ask yourself, what am I going to change next week to make sure this doesn't happen again? So let's say you do stay the same. You get 27 reps this week, you get 27 reps next week. Well, you know that's not supposed to happen, right? The training program isn't set up to do that. Something went wrong. What went wrong? Was it your training program? No, because the training programs are all very good. Was it your effort? Well, no, because I'm trying as hard as I can. What's the third thing it could be? Recovery. Recovery. What in your recovery? I have 5 things that I focus on. The umbrella of recovery for me is 5. It can be many more, though. But I look at those 5 things. Did I get enough sleep? Can I change that? Did I bathe my cells in nutrients? Did I eat properly? I can change that. Did I deal with my stress? Did I meditate? I can change that, right? And then there's another thing I call the rest of your life. You know, everything pulls on you. So not only do you get 24 hours every day, you have a set amount of energy. You can't just increase that amount of energy out of nowhere. And you start high, you end low. You spend your energy, your time, and your effort on something during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And you make those choices. Your kids, your job, buying a new house, thinking about this, thinking about that. Those are all the things that if we didn't have to do them and we were living at the Olympic Training Center, we didn't have a family, we didn't have a job, and all we did was train, then that wouldn't be such an issue. But it is. The rest of your life counts. So I have 5 things that I concentrate on.
Yeah.
Rest. Sleep. Those are different. Rest is time you spend out of the gym. Not being in the gym. Remember, we don't grow here. We don't get strong here.
Yeah.
So how many days are you not coming into the gym? How many days between workouts? I told you it was up to 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's rest. Sleep. And that can be, you can look up something called sleep hygiene online, and there's people that are very good at it. You can set yourself up to sleep better. Nutrition, that's a whole another thing, but everyone knows it's important. It's third. Fourth, stress. Meditation. How do you relax? How do you keep from spending energy on stress when you should be spending that energy on recovery? Remember, this is the umbrella of recovery.
Yes.
And then 5 is the rest of your life. You know, that's a huge one, right, though? It's
Yeah.
huge. What else is pulling at you that's going to drain energy that should be going to recovery that is going to something else?
Yeah.
You name it. I mean, it could be, anything could fit in there.
Oh, yeah.
But you
and I
can
think there's,
control some of it.
I think you can. I think today that rest of your life component is being made up of a lot of stuff that is controllable that people don't really think. I don't want to say they don't think it's controllable. I'm talking about getting upset about people's comments on social media.
You don't have to read them.
Letting that burn their ass, and becoming...
That eats at you.
It's a stressor.
That burns energy.
Yes.
Wouldn't you like that energy to go somewhere else?
Yes, even if it's...
Yeah, right.
I know a few people that have said that they can use that criticism as drive to train harder, but that's still
Maybe.
negative
It's
criticism.
negative. Yeah, if you're using that, my question is, can you find a positive one? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're going to run out of that. Because, hey, if they stop pissing you off, what are you going to do then? You're going to piss yourself off? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Have you practiced that? No, you've been waiting for somebody to piss you off.
Or you'll start finding things
Oh, indeed.
or
You'll try to
creating
create,
things.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So now you're creating your own chaos to fill a void which doesn't need to exist in the first place.
There
Which
may be a better way to do it. There might be.
you see, it's crazy. So I think that's a good fifth element to have in there that people need to consider with their training. That, I mean, at Westside, Louis kind of put us all in a bubble. It's like, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, don't do this. And, he was, don't have kids, don't get married, don't do that. I mean, and thinking back, a lot of the things were, it's kind of fucked up. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm older now. It kind of makes sense.
See
But
the drain.
I don't know if I want to give that advice to somebody. But,
If you can,
Yeah.
it'd be great.
Yeah.
So can you move closer to that? Can you get rid of some things in your life that you don't really value as much? Maybe not your kids.
Yeah.
Maybe not leave your wife and kids. Maybe keep them, but maybe give up the poker night. Where you stay up all night and you enjoy it maybe, but maybe give it up for at least a cycle of training and see how that goes. Or, or give up social media for a cycle of training and see how that goes. Give up something that you expect that energy to go back to you somehow, that you think you've been pushing out in some direction.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would find that even just one or two of those little things in that category, if they were to eliminate that, would have a profound effect
I think it
on their
does.
recovery. Which,
Yeah, turn your TV off for a
Yeah.
month and see how your training goes.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
turn
it's,
it off. Don't unplug it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a choice. They can invest more in the time that they spend with hot, cold contrast therapy, or spend less time getting pissed off at people that they don't even know.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off, which, you would think that if you're in it to win and to be the best that you can possibly be, and you're taking that period, as you talked about, time, we can't get it back. So if you're going to devote 5, 6, 10 years of your life to try to be your absolute best at this certain endeavor, that you would do everything you can to be the best at it and not let stupid things get in the way that you have total control over.
So this is one thing you have to be aware of what's in your life, because a lot of people just goes under the radar. They're not aware that these things are draining them out. They haven't thought about it. So sit and think about it.
Yeah.
What are the things? What's draining me out? And do I need it, or can I put it down for a minute? There's an old blues song. I can't quit you, baby, but I gotta put you down for a while.
Yeah.
So you don't have to say goodbye to your TV or your social media. But if it's helpful and you think it might give you an edge, it's worth a try.
Yeah.
Anything is worth it. So everybody knows, or at least from the time I've been born, everybody knows that there is sacrifice involved in greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has heard that, right? So what have you sacrificed? Are you trying to keep everything and be great? Well, good luck. I hope you can do it, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I sacrificed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think people have this attitude that maybe they don't have to give up their social media, and maybe they don't have to turn their TV off, and maybe they don't have to. So I think young kids really, especially, they believe that if they need another hour during the day, they'll just sleep an hour less. And they do. And they get away with it, they think. But I'm going to argue that the quality of everything they did went down. If they need 2 hours, they sleep 2 hours less. Like, giving up sleep is the way you get more time in this era, it seems. And I think they're fooling themselves. I think their whole life quality goes down. And the only way to prove that to them is to let them get enough sleep and see if it improves. But they're convinced that they can do that. I'll just get up. I'll just go to bed late, and I'll just get up on time anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure if that's wise.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm sure it's not, but I'm being kind.
Yeah, I've always liked to say that, the strength athlete that will tell me I'll do whatever it takes, will do whatever it takes except for what they really have to do.
Yeah.
Because there's always the point where they won't do that. They'll do things that are risking their health.
Yeah.
And their life.
Because that doesn't take any time, and their time is valuable.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't think
their
about
health
that.
isn't as valuable as
Very,
their time.
very little time, to be able to do those things.
I'll take that risk, yeah.
That's easy.
It is.
Compared to the other ones, which is more time. Do we have questions that we want to jump to?
I'll just say one thing.
Yeah.
Then, about that, I'll do whatever it takes.
Yes.
I don't believe that's true of anyone. And so I asked my people when they start, they want, if someone wants to be great,
yes,
not just work out, if they want to be great, and they tell me this, and I say, well, what are you willing to do? And the answer is, whatever it takes, I'll do anything.
No, I agree with you.
So I asked them, I say, okay, if that's true, you'll be the first one ever. Because everyone has your limits. I want you to define your limits. Oh, I don't have any limits. I'll do anything. No, you do have limits. Would you punch your mother in her throat? Now, if that were a requisite of this, would you do it? Because if you'll do anything, would you have homosexual sex? If that's a requisite, I hear out in Hollywood, that's you got to do that, right? So if you go to Hollywood and you're like, I'll do anything to be a star, really? Are you sure? So I think it's important that people understand their limits. Instead of this false belief that I'll do whatever it takes, I'll do this, I'll do that, but where's your limit? Where will you stop? Will you leave your family? Would you leave your wife and kids for 2 years and go train in Australia? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. Would you leave them forever? Because that's also in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Would you kill them? Because that's also in anything. So when you say, I'll do anything, it's not true. You should know where your limits are. Then when you get there at your limit, you'll make a wise decision. You're like, you know what? I'm tempted to go over this line now. I'm tempted to take this health risk right now. But I said this was my limit, and it really is, and I've got to stop. Now, you can still choose to go over it because it looks different when you're almost at your goal and your blood pressure's higher than you said you would. Mm-hmm. That would be your limit. But at least you have recognized that, you know what, I'm going to have limits, and that's okay. If it costs that much, I don't want it. And that's all right. It's okay to say. But I think being honest with yourself right from the get-go gives you a lot of, you know where you stand.
Yeah.
And you know how close you are to that limit.
I think that's important because I kind of indirectly set limits, but I crossed them. But I always had people, when I knew I was getting close to the edge, I always had either very good friends or Tracy,
and that's
I would
useful.
say,
that's
look,
helpful. Yeah, not everyone
I'm on the edge right here. I just want to let you know exactly everything that I'm doing right now, in case anything bad happens. You know what to tell the paramedics, or you get what I'm saying. You get where I'm going.
Yeah, I get.
And not one person was ever happy with me having this conversation, but I felt more at ease because, and maybe it was just my way to justify that I was going to do something that was a little bit further than what I really wanted to push. But
maybe
I knew where that line was, and
Even if you chose to go beyond it.
I chose that. But
Still
I
knew.
I think I
That's
chose,
a lot of self-awareness, though, and I don't think
Yeah.
a lot of people have that.
Yeah, I think I chose.
That takes a lot to do that, and I think people should do that.
Yeah, I think I made bad decisions intelligently, if that makes sense, because I pulled other people in
Yeah, I know what you mean.
just to let them know that, hey, look, this might not go as planned.
Hey, I'm going to drink like crazy, but you're going to pour them all, and when you stop pouring them, I'll stop drinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to
yeah,
pull you
yeah,
into
yeah,
this
yeah,
somehow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard people say
Okay.
that.
Any questions that we have for?
Yeah, if you want to backtrack real quick to what you guys were talking about with social media, one of the questions that just came in was, what are JM's thoughts on social media?
Very few. I'm not plugged in. I got the internet in December. I don't have a
Why is it
TV.
that you waited so long? Or that,
I was busy reading and petting my cats and being with people and playing guitar and taking walks and playing frisbee golf and developing. I don't have time for that. How do people have time for that?
because they're not living.
Well, maybe I'm not going to say that, but I didn't have time for it. And I'm also not going to say when I tell people I don't have a TV. I got rid of my TV in '99, and I didn't miss it. I did it because I wanted to study more, and I never missed it, so I never went back. And when I tell people I don't have a TV, they immediately tell me how little TV they watch. They feel like they have to be like, I only watch sports, and I don't watch that much TV either. And I'm like, I'm not judging you. I don't have TV because I don't want to have TV. I don't care if you have TV or not. I'm not telling you this because I think I'm better than you because I don't have a TV. I think I'm a better J.M. Blakley because I don't have a TV. I think I'm a better me. That's my choice.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with your time. Now, people will tell me, I just like to veg out, and I just don't have to think. And if that were true, then they would be great meditators. And they're not. So you're not, and the studies are clear on this, you're not vegging out when you're sitting there in front of a TV. Not by a long shot. In fact, the studies show that you're more stressed by the TV. Your choice of what to watch has a lot to do with that, but most people are actually not relaxing at all when they're watching TV for 4 hours a night. And they think they are because there's people that have a vested interest in keeping them watching. And so they make them think this is good for you. You're relaxing. You want to do this. No, I don't think you do. But you can, right? I'm not going to judge you, but I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I haven't. I do want to plug in because I want to reach more people. I'm not reaching enough people. I have some value left in my ideas. And they're not mine by any stretch of the imagination. I got them from somewhere else. I worked on them and I developed some. But this isn't new. These concepts some of them are ancient, right? Meditation's been around for, 5,000 years maybe. Certainly for 3,000. So, it's just, these are good, useful things. Again, back to usefulness.
What is your Instagram handle, just so people can find you on there?
Wow, I think it's just J.M. Blakley. I
Just-
don't
Well,
know.
there's gotta
Somebody
be-
set it up for me, so,
Yeah.
I don't know how to set anything
I'm
of that
following
up.
him, so I don't have that many followers.
I
So if
don't
they follow
know.
me, they'll be able to find him. But he will be writing articles for the site, so we'll be able to post the handle with the articles as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Which
definitely want to
if
plug
people,
in.
If people do want to comment, because there's a plethora of information he could write about, if people want to comment what they would like him to write about, that would help us greatly, because there's a very large open funnel here of content and information that's available that we want to bring it down, or my goal is to be able to bring it down into the most useful stuff
yeah.
that the readers are going to want to be able to use.
That makes sense.
The other thing I want to put out there too, in regards to, I'm going to kind of speak for him in a way, is he's still training people. And it's that I did this for 12 years. You're engaged with people personally for 8, sometimes 10 hours a day, depending upon how many billable hours. I had 50 billable hours a week, and that's a lot of mental work, you know, working with those people. And it's not like, if you're a good trainer, you're not going to be texting people and making Instagram posts in between clients or while you're training a client.
I don't bring the phone in.
Yeah,
it's in the car.
You're engaged in that client, and then when you're done, it's you have your own training you want to do.
Yeah, but I went through that workout with them mentally.
True.
Every bit that I had to psych up them for, I had to psych up too.
Yeah.
I had to calm them down. I went through every single set, every single rep mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they did. And then another guy. And then, right?
Yeah.
So talk about mental fitness. You got to...
Yeah, see, that I did not do when I trained people. So I was...
Well, I see trainers that don't do that. They barely pay attention.
Yeah.
Go do 10 sit-ups. That's like saying go run around the building till you get tired.
Yeah.
Then come back in and give me my money.
I was engaged enough
nothing.
to train them, but I was not engaged enough at what you would consider the spiritual level of the spirit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And David, that gets back to my belief that I'm going to spend an hour training this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm never going to get that hour back. If I don't get something for myself out of this hour, if I don't engage myself physically, mentally, now not much physical, but still I'm loading plates and I'm helping, but mentally and spiritually I'm in there.
Connecting.
I'm in there because that's what I value. And I'm going to be like, hey, that was a good hour. That was a good hour for me because I did what I like to do.
Yeah.
I helped that guy. We moved forward together. I'm in this with them, right?
Yes.
So people that show up for their job and shortcut and do just enough to not get fired, they got 8 hours and they get nothing to take home with them. Every hour I work, I bring something out of it. Every hour. Because I do it with that level of involvement.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to work and you don't get anything out of it, you're like, hey, I'm going to work for 8 hours, man. I'm going to come home with 8 hours of experience and it's going to be awesome. If you're not saying that, you might want to look for another job. Or you might want to give a crap, about your
I'm going to try to loosely define the spiritual type aspect that you're talking about. If those people who are listening have ever had a training partner that they've trained with, and you're just busting ass and you're working hard, and then he breaks a PR or she breaks a PR, and then you feel like you broke that PR.
You were right there.
That's the connection that we're talking about. So we're not talking about some religious thing. It's just a
you
connection.
Don't have to. Yeah. And if you don't like the religious terms of spirit or soul, just use drive or heart.
Yes.
I think they might be the same thing. But I don't know because I don't remember. I just know how to use it.
Yes.
I know how to use it. I know how to get there.
Yeah.
And so if you don't like the words, change the words around a little bit to suit yourself. I don't want to put anybody off. I'm about including people.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's weird because faith, religion, it's all kind of the same realm. But
it is. But we don't, like I say, I don't want to push anybody away. This idea that there's something. So I'll define it like this then. I'll
connection.
I'll follow your example of trying to find a way that people could swallow it without spitting, right?
Yeah.
People sometimes can push their body till it won't go because they have a really strong mind. We would all accept that, right? Well, some people don't stop there. Some people have such a strong mind that they can break their body. But what happens when their mind snaps? What happens when somebody pushes so hard that their mind snaps? There's a guy, one example I know is Dieter Dengler. He was a Vietnam guy. He got shot down. He gets down to 87 pounds. He escapes from his captors, goes through the jungle for 3 weeks, barefoot. His mind snaps. So his body's already broken, but his mind is pushing him on. He's got something more than his body. He's got his mind. And it pushes him. It pushes his body. And then that snaps. He starts hallucinating. He starts seeing his dad giving him directions which way to go, all kinds of stuff. He's gone. His mind is no longer an asset. It's broke. But he still makes it out. What was he running on? What was that? What was feeding his mind? Something was running his body right past his mind. And I think that's heart or spirit or soul or will or ego or self or any word
Yeah.
you want, you know,
Yeah.
any word you want. But some people can tap into that, like him. It's a guy that got left on Mount Everest. Left for dead. That's the name of the book. Left for dead. He literally was left for dead. He went into a coma, his brain started to swell, he left him. That's the rules. That's the rules. If you can't make it, you're too bad. We're not carrying you down. We can't. We're going to barely make it down. We're not going to let you kill everybody. So you came up, you get down. They left him. He climbed down. Lost his hands, lost his face. I mean, it's bad. But somehow, his body was toast. His brain wasn't even there. He made it. Now, I don't know how you explain those things, but I explain them that there's another thing. There's a body, people agree to that. There's a
Yes.
mind, most people agree to that.
Yeah.
But there's something else, I think. Not everybody agrees, that's okay. But I have examples that lead me to believe that. You know, there's a lot of examples like that. If there were just one, that'd be enough. So if one human can do it, I think we can all do it.
Yeah.
So on things like that, you might explain them, like the Mrs. Maxwell Rogers in Jacksonville, Florida, lifted the car up. That's the one that everybody knows,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And the details of that are much less impressive. But she had a lot of damage. But she did lift the car. She barely lifted it. She didn't lift the tires off the ground or anything. She lifted it just enough. And her son wasn't dying. He was just pinned. He was stuck. He couldn't get himself out. So she just lifted it just enough that he could squeeze out. But man, she was hurt.
She was a strongman competitor, wasn't she?
No, she was a normal 36-year-old woman, right? Never trained a day in her life. Probably 130 pounds, if that. And this is pretty well documented, right? So you can believe that God or a spirit or something outside of her came in and gave her the ability to do that. And that's one explanation. Another explanation might be that she had something inside of her that she brought out and brought up and brought to bear. And I like that one because I believe of the two, one, you're counting on an outside force to show some favor to you. The other, you're counting on a force from inside of you that you're bringing forth. And I tend to believe that we all have that, right? So you can believe either way you want, but you have to explain it somehow. She did something that was remarkable,
Yeah.
and she was untrained for it. Hard to explain, and you can choose your maybe angels came down and lifted it. Maybe that I don't know. You know, I don't think she knows. Maybe she does. Maybe she says angels came down. God helped me lift it. Okay, that's one explanation. Another possible explanation, though, is that we all can do it. And I believe that back in the day, when food wasn't everywhere and safety wasn't everywhere, and every single day was a life and death struggle to get food and get away from predators. When we had to fight the bears for the caves, right? The cave bears wanted to live there and we wanted to live there and we had to kick their ass out. Those are our ancestors. They brought themselves into an emergency situation where everything had to work or they were going to die. And the ones that could get it to work survived and gave us those abilities, I believe. That's my choice of how to explain Mrs. Maxwell Rogers or anything that I've ever done that was remarkable or anything that anybody's ever done that's remarkable. I think we all can have some of that. And who knows how much, right? So that's a preferable choice of explanations for me. Right? I like to believe that we all can dig down deep. But if your worldview if you don't believe there's anything down there, you won't even reach down to see.
I have a hard time believing that anybody would think that they can't go 1 degree deeper. And if you can go 1 degree deeper, you can go 2.
Yeah.
And so on. So it's just
Well,
the
some
belief.
people they don't think there's anything there. That's their worldview. I am what I am. These are my genetics. There's nothing there. So they don't bother looking. I agree with you. If they bother to look, anyone I know who's ever reached deeper has come up with something. Nobody reaches down deep and comes up with nothing that I have ever met.
Myself, and I've never
met anybody
No.
who has reached down and come up with an empty hand. I don't know of anybody that's going to say, yeah, I reached down, there was nothing there. There's nothing down there. Once you're at your limit, you're at your limit. No, people tell me the exact opposite. I went just one more, I'm running, and I went one more mailbox, or one more whatever. So I think that's a more empowering belief anyway. Since we don't know for sure, I would say, see if you can believe that.
Yeah.
Because
It's better than the alternative.
yeah, I can't prove it, but I will say this: the data stacks up. Everybody that's reached down tells me that there is something there. They got something else that they didn't know was there, but they reached for it. They dug down. They couldn't see the bottom. They reached in and grabbed it and pulled it up. And I don't have any story that balances that. I reached down and nothing came back. Not one. Never heard it.
All right.
Another one?
Yeah. A couple people commented and basically said they want him to elaborate more on his mental practices, but I think that could be something he writes about.
Yeah, we'll make that an article.
I think
he got pretty deep into that. So if they go back and listen a little bit more, he gave 2 examples just on meditation.
Here's an easy one. A good meditative technique to still your mind is to take a bell and ring it. And as long as you hear it ringing, try to think nothing. And as soon as you think something else, ring it again. You try to get down till the bell is silent. And you can buy some pretty long ringing chimes and bells to do this with. But anything will work. Just hit even a bowl, a glass bowl or something will make a sound. You ring it, and you just think nothing until you can't hear it anymore. And you ring it again, and you practice staying thought-free. And if you get a thought, just let it pass. So there's an easy one.
Yeah, that's simple.
All right, I think a good one to end on. Dave has often said that everything he's needed to learn in life, he learned from the gym. I don't know if I worded that right. But
almost everything.
Yeah. What is the most important thing you think you've learned at the gym? Or you can twist that.
I have an easy answer for that. What comes to mind first? So sometimes the best answer isn't the first one, but oftentimes it is. So you see what bubbles up, and the first thing that bubbled up is perseverance. You learn that in the gym. You learn to keep trying. You can't lift it today. I can't lift it yet. You persevere, and you can lift not only that, but a lot more, and you keep persevering. And at some point, you're like, holy crap, how in the world am I lifting this? But maybe I can lift even more. So perseverance is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Well, if we take it a step deeper, what's the most important thing you've learned in life? I know that's a little deep, but
no, that's not too deep. You know, I could be cagey and say the same thing, right? That would be a cagey answer, right? Perseverance. But I think that anything that helps you discover yourself more is in the category of the most important things I've learned. So constantly trying to put yourself in situations where you are self-reflective. You know, the unexamined life is not worth living. I believe it was either Aristotle or Plato. I can't remember. That's bad that I can't remember that. But examine your life, examine yourself. Try to learn something about yourself. That's really valuable, because that's
deep.
The only person in your life that's always there is you.
Yeah.
Your cats won't be always there. Your parents, your children, maybe, you know, your friends, your wives, who knows? You know, you're the only one that's always there consistently. So it behooves you to learn something about yourself. So anything where I've ever learned something better about, and even more, even bad, even if I learned something bad, those are really valuable things in life to learn about, you know? And of course, education. You know, I don't understand why people don't read books. Because the smartest guys in the world have written their thoughts down. Guys way smarter than us, right? Way smarter. The smartest men in the world have written this down, and it's in a book, and all you got to do is open a book and read it. Now, you may not understand it, but you have access to it, and you may understand more than you think. And people don't read. And all this knowledge and thoughts and ideas, the smartest ideas in history, are available to us at the library. And people don't read. So I think one valuable thing to do
for free.
Yeah. Is to tap into the smartest people in the world and read what they had to say about the world, about any issue that you are interested in. Some really smart people have thought a lot about it, and they'll tell you what they thought, and then those become your thoughts.
Yeah.
For just the time that you put in.
Well, I know the follow-up question that's going to come immediately from that is, what books should they read?
Oh, I got a reading list for my clients and for everybody. Sure.
What was the first one you would say?
A good one to start with. Well, there's just so many good ones. So the first one that popped up in my mind is, and it's not too out there. It's pretty practical. By pretty practical, I mean amazingly practical. Is Alan Loy McInnes, The Power of Optimism. It's a book about 200 and some pages that I can open to any page randomly and find a useful idea on. 200 pages, any page. Any 2 pages. I can open the book, and he will say something that is valuable and useful. Not many books are like that. You know, you get a nugget or 2 or 3, maybe a couple good chapters, and that's worth reading that book for those. This guy puts together 12 chapters of solid ideas that are useful, not with practice, but starting that day. The moment you read them, you can use them. So Alan Loy McInnes is a very good, The Power of Optimism. And, practical, down to earth, no Buddhism or Zen or any of that stuff, meditation, just ideas and useful ideas. How to think about the world, how to think about problem solving, useful instantly, like right away.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 1, got something. Chapter 2, another. Just keeps coming. That's top 5.
So you've written training manuals. Have you ever thought about writing a book, or have you written any books?
No, I have written books, but they've been exercise related.
Have you thought about writing anything?
I think about it every day. And sometimes I write about it on my Instagram it may not be training oriented, but it's mental oriented that can be used in training. Not every day, but I do about 1 a week. I try to. And I want to start writing more, because I really think that I have an ability to do that, and I don't have any secrets anymore. So anybody that says I got a training secret for you, they're lying, because they don't. Because training secrets come hard won, and nobody who's still competing is going to tell you how they win, how they beat you. Right? I remember these muscle and fitness articles, how I won Mr. Olympia. Yeah, no way is that what you did. You're never going to tell people what you did, right? Until you're in a position like me, where I don't have any competitors. I'm not competing. I have no reason to keep any of this to myself anymore. I don't have any reason to hold it back. But people that are competing, they have a reason, or people that have other people competing, they have a reason, right? So, I've sort of been challenged by some of my friends to get it out of me before I kick the bucket, right? Mm-hmm. I better tell somebody about this before it dies with me, right? And I thought about that, and I've almost kicked the bucket a couple times. So, yeah, now's as good a time as any. So, yes, I do think about that, and I hope that I can make good on that, very good on it. And I have 3 books that I have written that are on my computer that I need to edit, and
that might end up on someone's top 5 list someday when they're telling the story.
God
Only if you put it out, though.
You're too kind. That's nice. I hope it does. That would be great.
Any last thoughts from you guys?
No, I just want to thank JM, for coming on.
You're very welcome.
And this all started, I think that everybody should know, with I don't know what you call an Instagram conversation, but a conversation with exactly what he was just talking about. He wants to bring his information and bring his knowledge to more people. So we're going to help him make that happen through articles or whatever format we need to do to be able to make that possible. I've known him for a long time, haven't spoken for a long time, He didn't disappear. Somebody was asking, like, where did he disappear to? I mean, he's always kind of been around. He didn't die, obviously, because he's still here.
That was one of the comments. Somebody said that
near-death experiences. I think there might have been a couple.
Pretty close.
But, you know, other stories for other days. But, yeah, it's just thanking him. And I think that he has more to offer than what he really knows. I think you have a lot more to offer than what you think that you do, from just the mindset all the way to the training. I mean, it's your experience and education set aside. While I'm one that I do feel education is important, formal and continued education, reading every day is very important. But experience trumps education. Now, experience plus education trumps all.
Yeah. Experience without education, though,
Is
it's
ignorance.
just what happened to you. Yeah.
That's
Gotta
ignorance.
have some basis. Yeah.
Yes, that's not good. So I think there's a lot there to be able to pull from a lot of different realms, and I think people will be surprised at some of the things that he's going to write about.
Sure.
And here's why, and this is a scary thing to say, because it's true. You know, people, and you know, one of the comments I get about the podcast and my own writing is how real I am and how true I am. It's like, well, how exactly are you supposed to be fake? Because I don't know how to do that. I never went to that
Some
class.
people are very good at it.
Yeah, a lot of people are
They're
very good
practiced.
at it. They're practiced, you know. I'm not practiced in that because it's, I could never carry the lie long enough to not be exposed. You know, so that's that. So
And you have to ask yourself, I spent an hour writing this article. That hour's gone. Do I get anything out of it? If I lied my way through it,
it's a waste of
that
time.
was a lost hour. I don't get
Yeah.
nothing out of that. I'm a phony, a
Yep.
fraud
Yep.
for an hour, or however long that lie persists. So it just, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know too many lies that have lasted a very long time. There's a couple. There are some out there. And we don't know about the lies that we don't know about, right?
Oh
We might
yeah.
still
Now
think
now
they're
we're
true.
going to go.
But the ones that, most of the lies don't last long anyway. So you're just buying a moment.
Yeah.
If you do that kind of thing, you're getting a moment, right? I had a buddy that used to say, I don't really care how I look out of clothes. I want to look good in clothes. Train me to look good in clothes, because when a girl comes home to my apartment, it's going down, right? She can't talk her way out of it. So I need to look really good in clothes, but the lie is found out, right? The lie is found out.
He's a tailor.
Yeah. Now, he got in really good shape too. He did a bodybuilding show, did well, but he sort of believed that. I thought it was a joke at first, but he's like, man, I got to look good in clothes, because once they've decided, they'll follow through. I'm like, after the lie has been found out, after you unbutton that, and there it is, and he's like, oh yeah. Okay, so I don't know if that's
Yeah.
true, but most lies
Yeah.
are found out,
Okay.
right? Soon.
Pray for him. Okay, guys, we're going to shut this down.
All right, thanks a lot, David.
Yep.
I appreciate it.